Well, hopefully we're all up and running now. The live chat should be active. I'm just waiting to see if it actually loads on my end to know that we're all good to go. First crack at doing the live thing in Ben's absence with his setup. So fingers crossed everything works according to plan. Oh, good. I can see myself. Awesome. Let's close that. It's a bad look. I'm sorry, all you've got to suffer through it in the first place. All right. Well, we'll get things going. Welcome everyone. Those tuning in live and those catching up on post game live, fresh from a 30-point loss to the Swans. We've got look at Ben already chirping in the chat, mate. If you can't make it, piss off. So, all right. We're obviously fresh from a 30-point loss against the Swannies here, and Ben with one of his final acts as a part of the Hoops crew, because we're kicking him after chirping like that. Put out the tweet asking for some ticks and crosses from the community on social media. So I'm going to draw a few of those up before we start bringing some of our various guests in, both of the Geelong and Sydney supporting persuasion. It'll be a good one tonight. But first, let's take a bit of a look at what people are saying. Ben looked for some ticks and crosses from people, and I'll scroll through a few of those now. All right, let's do it. We've got some people expressing how fired up they are, and they're sitting tight in the back end of the call here, ready to go. So looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say here. But as we start to kind of dive into some of the ticks and crosses, we're starting to see some pros for Atkins, Kolodjasny, Stengel. I think the general sentiment should be pretty positive around those three for starters. But I have seen a couple wanting to take a clip at Tommy Atkins for some poor, like, I guess, down moments that he had. Proud of the initial effort, but then showing that our youth is kind of running out of legs. We are in this interesting transitional period as a club right now, where we've still got some senior statesmen, but as some new guys that are coming and going, and they're going to have ups and downs throughout any match, let alone over the course of weeks. An interesting one here that kind of highlights that contrast in what we saw in the first term there from the likes of Mullen and Grindmeyers and co, and then how that kind of faded throughout the course of the game. I'll blow these up and we can kind of compare the Q1 stats to then the full time numbers, and how I guess their influence was curbed significantly from that point onwards. Show that our best is as good as anyone. Swans are definitely gettable. That's an interesting perspective that I don't know if I quite agree with now, but the season is still somehow quite young. Got to be stronger for longer. It is that consistency. It's the lapses. We've spoken about this a little bit over the course of the last couple of weeks. Hell, even the Richmond game last week, and that kind of costing us a bit there. Disappointing to see us lose by so much after a strong start. The second quarter was a real concern. It was something that even commentary teams were talking about during the game. The second term has been our worst for the season. I think we'd only won 3 of them. And, that hasn't changed. We've won 3 of them. This one from Scott here is an interesting one, saying, the luxury of not being able to play danger. Look, obviously the talk almost from the get-go was that he was going to be out until after the bye. That time is now up, so I assume we're going to see him in the next game. But certainly you could see it hurt when the Swans, especially late in that second term, really got a head of steam going on. We were kind of lacking the experience in the midfield, and I guess even some of that just sheer brutal skill and years of experience at that top level to be able to maybe push back a little bit. They got on a roll, and we didn't necessarily have the wheels in there to curb that momentum whatsoever. And as I said, there's some people that were going to push back on Atkins. We're seeing a little bit of that there, often late to stoppages in the second and third. Yeah, that was an interesting one. There was a few times where he was either coming off the bench or whatever, trying to make it to a stoppage, but couldn't make it in time. And there was a couple scenarios where some clearances, let alone ultimately some scores, resulted from Atkins just not being able to make it to the contest at that particular point. There's something to be said here about the bye, but considering Geelong's history after a bye, I'm not going to spend too much time contemplating what would have been if we came in fresh as well, because we probably would have lost by more based on our history after the bye. Again, comments around the second quarters and players in particular kind of coming and going. A sentiment that I think will be expressed quite a lot over the course of the night will be that of around Reece Stanley. I think Reece Stanley is going to be discussed by quite a few people over the course of the night tonight. And we'll see how that one travels. Same with Mitch Duncan. I've seen a bit of a negative sentiment towards Mitch online, so I'll be looking forward to some nuanced conversation around Mitch when the time comes. I'm sure everyone's got lots of thoughts. Let's pick through it shortly. And there's quite a few more. I'll return to some of these a little bit later on in the show as well. I'm sure there's a few more that will be coming in as well. But we're going to jump over to some guests now. And as I was kind of touching on when I was chatting to a few people before the stream today, we lost, but we're good losers here at Geelong. And so we're going to throw some time over to the winners first. We'll be good losers here. Riles, welcome aboard, mate.
Oh, no, thanks, mate. Yeah, cheers to the invite. I do come in peace, by the way, so I don't want to get crap or anything. But no, thanks for getting me on, man. Yeah, ever since that 2022 grand final, that day was special for Geelong supporters, and I've always respected Geelong as a great side and probably a team in maybe a bit of transition now with the older sort of crop of players starting to come through, starting to get on, and some of those younger players like Clark and Bruin really now starting to gain some experience. But I thought it was pretty gallant today from the Cats, getting out to 5-6 goal lead and defending behind the ball really well. But I just think from a four-quarter perspective on our end, we're just a tough team to beat, simple as that. We've got players in really good form. We're just a really strong cohesive unit. That could be same to said for Geelong, but yeah, just a tough team to beat at the moment. So it was a really good battle. The Cats never gave up. The tackling pressure was really good from Geelong, but I think just our ground level ability and our end-to-end ball movement really got away from you. So yeah, it was a pretty good game to watch.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of fascinating to get your perspective a little bit here as a non-Geelong supporting fan of football here. What sort of things do you feel like kind of let Geelong down today? Obviously, I think there's been a lot that's been said about the Swans, and they are in incredible form at the moment. And despite the fact that we gave you a nice six goal head start, you went and clawed that back in pretty rapid time and through that second term. But I guess, yeah, as a neutral, what did you kind of see in the Cats? What was working, what wasn't? Because I know that there's a sentiment about a few specific individuals that I'm sure I'll hear a lot of over the course of the night. But from your side of the fence, what do you see?
I think probably for Geelong and just the inability for them to win clearances really grew as the game wore on. Like we were really able to win a lot of stoppages. Like Stanley's first quarter was okay, but this is where Grundy really got alive, and all of a sudden Stanley was just getting obliterated constantly in ball ups. You'd have Grundy in front position, hit outs to advantage was through the roof. So he was a key part for us to get the ball forward. So that's probably what I noticed the most with the Cats. But like defense, like Cooley Jasny, I thought was pretty good in the air. Stewart got well contained by Stewart. Probably just a sort of a game where Geelong will probably learn a lot of lessons from it too. Given, no Dangerfield, no Guthrie as well has definitely hurt them too. But yeah, probably just the midfield did let the Cats down a little bit. But Atkins really soldiered on, must be said.
Yeah, I think there was certainly some wins for us in the midfield, and I've been banging the Jack Bowes drum for quite some time now. And obviously 2 goals won and roughly, I don't have the numbers right in front of me at the moment, but about 20 or so possessions is a pretty solid effort from that particular position. You're right about Tom Atkins as well. Like he really soldiered on quite hard. But yeah, I think it's some of the other guys, and admittedly, some of them are quite young still as well, who are having moments at this point where they're drifting in and out of the game. And so, I think about Tanner Bruin, who I think is going to be an absolute, well, I think we all know he's going to be an absolute gem. He's proven it on many, many times so far, but he's still playing kind of in patches, and that's going to develop in time. And again, I think, that point I was making while still scrolling through the tweets earlier, that just the ability to kind of curb the momentum when an opposition gets on a bit of a run, and as your mob did during that second term, and again, kind of late in the piece as well, how do we arrest that momentum? And it's a skill that, the Geelong midfield of even 2 years ago was able to do. But as some of the old names have transitioned out or are injured and out of the play for a bit, the young blokes are stepping up, and they've still got to learn that. And that's going to take a bit of time.
Certainly.
Sorry, go on.
No, sorry, I'll just add on that. That's sort of like how we were a few years ago, like 2022. Yeah. The first half of the season, we'd start games poorly. Like we were down, I think, 32-0 against the Hawks. Like we've been through those periods ourselves, and even starting the game pretty poorly too. So I sort of see Geelong as maybe similar to us from like 2018, 2019, those sort of older players now starting to get on, the new wave starting to come through. But I still see Geelong as a very competitive side and in general, highly cohesive unit that can really be efficient. I guess they were today, like the first half were pretty efficient for goal and hitting targets well, but our defence was able to really solidify, I think, after quarter time. And Melican did a superb job. He's been a revelation for us. So, yeah, that's what I really noticed from today.
Yeah, I guess linking back to your point before, that I mean, I checked the disposal efficiency stats, and both teams are pretty much on the same ledger there. We were slightly more efficient going inside 50. Sydney was slightly more efficient just in terms of general disposal. But I think what kind of let Geelong down ultimately was that the actual number of opportunities their forwards had, despite the fact that we were more efficient by 1%, admittedly, so it's really negligible. It's the level of supply that is kind of the potential issue there at the moment. So, and that's not factoring in as well that number will be a bit skewed considering the dominance of the first quarter as well, where everything was kind of turned into goal pretty early on in the piece. So if we were to kind of break that down to quarter by quarter sort of level, it's a little less picturesque for Geelong in that regard going forward as well. So, and you touched on it.
Yeah, and I know Jeremy Cameron's playing pretty high up the ground, like first half mostly on the wing, and then kicked the 2 goals late and was pretty influential and almost the comeback for the Cats.
Yeah, and I was seeing a little bit of that through some of the tweets as well. A couple of questions being asked about Shannon Neal, who's obviously going to be a part of the future of Geelong's forward line, but is it necessarily the right call for him to be kind of taking one of the top 2 spots and Jeremy Cameron floating up the ground? I know obviously he's quite important in that regard, but I think the need to play primarily as a key position forward should be the focus. And you could see the change straight away as soon as Shannon Neal went off injured and Cameron had to base himself more out of the forward line. Got on the end of a couple, kicked a couple key goals in that last term, and was looking really threatening late. I guess how were you feeling at different points there where you'd kind of arrested the lead, you'd had the momentum, you felt like, I'm sure you probably feel like, okay, we're good. And then all of a sudden Cameron's getting on the end of a couple and Bowes kicks one from 50 and suddenly the Cats started to get a bit of a motor on. Where were you at?
Yeah, it was a roller coaster game, to be honest. 2022 flashbacks came back in that first quarter. I'm like, oh dear, but I don't think we were that awful in the first quarter. We're just really rusty on moving the ball. Like I think the inside 50s were tired at quarter time. We're winning the clearances. So I still backed us in and just think this year we're a much more mentally tougher side. Like these sort of games we would have just dropped off and fell off the cliff. But we've just been able to stay in games really well from our perspective. That's how I've really felt. And that comeback too, I was probably getting up and about a little bit with Papley kicking his third and then all celebrating live on my watch along. But yeah, it was a really gallant comeback from Geelong. And as you pointed out, Bowes, I think he kicked the 2 goals in the final quarter. I'm pretty sure. Did he?
I think one early, one late, and then Cameron kicked his 2 in the last term as well. So
yeah, he's really, really good. And also liked Jai Clark's game too. His attack on the footy was really good, and he's going to be, sure, I think, a great player for you, like.
Yeah, I mean, when he was drafted, people were talking about Joel Selwood 2.0, and hopefully people aren't continuing to set that expectation for him so high right now because it's a lot of pressure to put on a young bloke. But he's making all the steps in the right direction. So hopefully he comes good kind of soon. Let's shift focus a little bit to the Swans because I do want to make sure, and we don't often have supporters of the opposition team jumping into the call. So I want to make it, take an opportunity to kind of celebrate your mob a little bit. They're on fire at the moment. They got the chocolates today. For you as a Sydney supporter, what did you enjoy the most about that? Obviously, it was a really gritty, hard-fought comeback. But in terms of some of the individuals out there who kind of struck a chord the most, obviously, some good numbers from quite a few good players.
Yeah, I think we're just a well-oiled machine at the moment. Everybody playing their part, and as I touched earlier, the mental toughness of this side's really improving. We've started off games really badly, and we've just grown into it. And I don't know if you saw on Fox Footy, I think it was on the couch where Errol Goulden got mic'd up. He was like really getting around Brody Grundy saying, "Hey, you're traveling, mate. You're all good." So
yeah,
just the little things have really improved, and we always felt like we've been in games. And after quarter time, we really were able to win a lot of the ground balls and be a bit more efficient when going forward. Heaney, Goulden, Warner, those trio of midfielders were superb. I think Goulden wasn't really getting much attention into him. He was just, moving from contest to contest so well and picking apart targets. Yes, he likes to chew off quite a bit with his kicks. So we had a few turnovers in that second quarter, when we were just turning the ball over so much. But we're able to really cut off targets in the corridor, and the short kicking really improved as the game wore on. Papley with 4 goals. It was great to see him finally really have a superb game. His last few weeks have been struggling a little bit, but his work rate's still been very good. But for him to finally get let off the chain and kick 4 goals, it's been a while since we've seen him get up and about the SDG too. So that was awesome.
He was enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Grundy was definitely one of the best on ground for us. His head-up work, his ground level work. I loved Tom Hickey when he was at the Swans, but he's nowhere near the level of Brodie Grundy. So he's been a huge revelation to our stoppage game this year.
Yeah, I'd definitely side with you there that I'd argue Brodie Grundy was probably the best on ground today. Obviously, he had his way with Stanley through the ruck, but also he was really important around the ground as well. And it felt like it got to a point where Cats players were trying to actively kick it where he wasn't at different points because they kind of knew what the outcome of the contest would be. So all credit to him. He's a brilliant player, and he seems to have really kind of rediscovered himself a little bit since joining the Swans as well. There was obviously a tricky year there with Melbourne, but the right move has been made. He seems to be really happy with enjoying himself and found himself in a team that's making a real fist of it this year.
Yeah, loving his work, and it's just so awesome. We've been able to get a high quality ruckman, been lacking one for years, and the ruck carousel we've had since 2015, getting rid of Darcy Cameron and Nankervis because we wanted to keep Naismith. Unfortunately, those 3 ACLs. It's nice to get on the good end of picking up a quality ruckman and Grundy for sure.
Touch wood, but because we never want to wish injuries on anyone. But yeah, touch wood. But yeah, I guess for you, maybe the final question before I start to turn it over to some of the, I don't know, potentially angry masses that might jump in soon. We'll see how we go. What do the Swans need from here to take it all away at the end of the year? What do they still require? Is it just maintaining? Are there a few weak links still that need to be ironed out? What do you think is required for the Swans to go all the way this year?
Just keep on keeping on, keep fit, keep injury free. Those are the most important things. And 2 years ago, since that grand final, of course, in the inner sanctum, they do say it's quite past us now, that grand final. So we still await the big test on can we finally do it on the big day. It's been a while since that grand final in terms of aging experience compared from that day till now. But yeah, just to continue to keep fit really is one of the most important things. And, the chemistry of the occasion is really working well. We're just singing it. We're just on song at the moment. So just keep on keeping on really.
Yeah, I think, I guess if you're a Swan supporter, you probably just want to hope that you haven't peaked too early because you guys are flying and you want to maintain that throughout the course of the season. Now they have a great age profile. So I think that might be the case. And unless it's injuries or something like that. And again, touch wood, if we get to play you guys later in the year and it's in a final of some sort and we beat you, I want to make sure that we're beating a Swans team who's fully fit and flying and not one that's been hampered by injury. So I look forward to a potential contest later in the year. Hopefully it's a good game, but hopefully the Cats get the chocolates in that one. But mate, it's been awesome to have you on. Thanks for jumping in.
Pleasure. Thanks very much.
Should make sure before you disappear too that if anyone wants to check out all of your stuff and you do put some amazing content out there, where should people go?
Yeah, just check out Rolls Muck on YouTube. Love live watch alongs. Love doing footy tips and just talking footy on my channels. So yeah, thanks very much for getting me on, Paul, and take care.
No worries, mate. Thanks so much for coming aboard.
All right, easy.
We'll chat soon.
Cheers.
See you, mate. Good bloke. Now, we were chatting pre-show, and let's add our next guest. And this time, bit of a Geelong focus. We'll kick that Sydney rabble out. Rolls has just jumped out of the back end, so he's not going to be aware of that trash talk. Get the Sydney filth out of here, and let's talk Geelong more specifically. Welcome, mate. Welcome back. We were chatting only 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, g'day, Paul. Good to be on here as always. And well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Sydney Swans. I thought they were the better side tonight, and they're the best team in the comp for a reason. I think they have, the best midfield in the league in Isaac Heaney, Chad Warner, and Errol Gilded, and Brodie Grundy. What a revelation of a season he's having as well. But yeah, from the Cats perspective, first quarter, I did get a bit excited, Paul. But I thought to myself, this doesn't feel right. Like this is
when's the other shoe going to drop?
This is very un-Sydney-like. I thought I thought the pressure was great. Stengel was on fire, but I thought to myself, nah, this can't be happening. I'm sure the Sydney midfield will click in, and that's what happened. That's what happened in the second half. Paul. It reminded me of. I went to the Port game last year. Geelong were playing. We were up by like 4 or 5 goals in the first quarter. Gary Rowan was just like a house on fire. But as soon as the Port midfield clicked in, it was game over, and it was exactly like this game tonight. Play catch up footy for the rest of the game, and and again, it's just like another close loss, but just so many chances we could have just won the game, but it's just wasted. But far out, it's just but no, Sydney were the better side tonight, and kudos to them.
So what's working and what's not for the Cats? Obviously, there's been a lot said in the last few weeks. Obviously, last week we had a win, and maybe that dulled a little bit of the noise. But there's certainly been some concerns from the Geelong supporting side of the industry in the last month and a half now. Where are we at? What's needed to kind of change this momentum that we're on?
Well, it's the middle of the ground, Paul, and I'm sure that's going to be talked about a lot throughout the show. Reece Stanley, he's a premiership ruckman. Can't take that away for him. But I don't know, man. He's just like his first quarter was okay, but he just got towed up by Grundy. He just I just don't know. And I feel like if Toby Conway was fit, he would absolutely be playing right now. And I think Stanley's done. Probably rotate with Blitzarves and Neil in the meantime. Mitch Duncan, he had a couple of silly mistakes. I think it was in the fourth quarter. Brad Close gave it off to Duncan. I think he kicked it behind, or it was a shock. It was a shocking.
Yeah,
kick.
He shanked it. Very un-Mitch Duncan like.
Yeah, it's just like and it's just because I saw Lawson Humphreys in the VFL game earlier.
And a few people have been commenting on Lawson today. He was tearing it up.
Like, his 25 disposals, he absolutely kicked the goal to seal the game as well. And it's just, I think we're going to have to make these tough calls, because when are we going to play these kids? Like, look, Tanner Bruin, Jai Clark, Max Holmes, they're obviously established in the team right now. I don't know if Dangerfield's going to be fit when he comes back. I don't know what Cam Guthrie is going to be like. They're superstars of the team. Don't get me wrong, but we just can't rely on these older blokes all the time to win games. Yet, are we going to challenge for top 4 or challenge for another premiership? You look at teams like Port Adelaide. They've got the Connor Rosie, Zach Butters, and Jason Horne-Francis. They've given the keys to the young guys, and look what they're doing now. I feel like if we just give the keys to our younger blokes and see what they can do the next 12 and 18 months, watch out, because I've seen so much more promise in the VFL side than what I'm seeing here in the AFL. But that's just me, Paul. I feel like we need a shake up in the midfield. We need to make some tough calls. It's what's going to happen.
No, I get it. The midfield one is obviously, I think that's where the majority of people's concerns have kind of been over the course of the last 6 weeks or so. And I would agree that like there is this tricky balance that we've got to go through at the moment with the likes of Danger and Cam Guthrie still being on the list, the Mitch Duncans, those sorts of the guys who have been kind of part of that midfield blend over the course of the last decade really. And you're right. We can see it with the VFL team, the players that are coming through, whether it's your Mitch Hardys, whether it's your Lawson Humphreys, whether it's Mitch Nevitt, who will always keep pumping up. There's so many of these talented young blokes that are making their way through and are really starting to assert themselves upon that level of the competition. And obviously, I put a video up during the week about Mitch Hardy. It might have even been the week before. I don't know. It's all blur at this point.
I saw that as well. Yeah,
pumping him up and disappointed that he didn't get a gig, and then he made his way onto the emergency list this week. And it feels like got so close, but not quite when it comes to tonight. It feels like they're entertaining it, and they're just not quite getting games into those blokes, and they're showing so much. So you have to just keep kind of questioning and wondering when as a supporter. But I'm also sure that they're probably asking the same question as well. It feels like, and Geelong has been so bullish in recent years that this whole we will not bottom out mentality, they are trying to thread the needle. They're trying to make sure that as Danger and Cam Guthrie and whoever else it is that kind of phases out, that the next crop is ready to step straight in. And it's not a case of, okay, we're now going to have to sell as well while not because we don't have the talent, but because now they need the time to flourish. They're trying to phase them in gradually. And that, maybe hypothetically, don't know, I'm not trying to retire anyone, but maybe we lose Mitch at the end of the year. And so that's Mitch Nevitt's opportunity off the halfback or the wing. And then you lose Zach Tui, and there's another opportunity there. And then you maybe lose Paddy Dangerfield, and there's someone that jumps into the midfield. But they've been doing that apprenticeship for quite some time. They've started to develop the bigger body, and they're kind of good to go. You can see what they're going for. It's just whether they can nail it. And certainly the thing that you can't account for along the way is injury. And we're seeing that with Danger. We're seeing that with Cam Guthrie. We can see, you mentioned Mitch Duncan before, and I love Mitch, and I will defend him more than I think most. Certainly over the course of the last few years, I've seen a few people jump out, but at the same time, you can see like his greatest weapon has always been his efficiency, and it's not quite there at the moment. Right down to obviously, like he shanked one late in the game. Okay, let's not lynch him over that. But there's been some kicks that just haven't been hitting targets for a little while now, and it raises concern. So
it's happened in a number of games when I've seen with Mitch as well, like Paul, because he's an absolute Rolls Royce, always delivering the silver platters to our forwards and stuff like that. And I'm not seeing that with Mitch this year. And I just feel like the alarm bells are going off. And look, I love Mitch as well. He's a legend of the club too, but that's just football, It's a time with these athletes. So they're not going to last forever and stuff like that. But yeah, I just feel like we need to make these tough calls. I feel like Lawson Humphreys, he'd be great. He'd be great to come in. I feel like he'd be the next debutant for Geelong. But yeah, I
certainly don't want to give one to Mitch Hardy. The way things are going.
But can we just bloody win a centre clearance? It's like a play like Mitch Hardy, Brandon Parfitt. It just got in my head right now. Brandon Parfitt, he's had a good game as well. He's having a resurgent career. Why is he falling out of favour with the side now? What's happened? Do the coaches have a grudge against him? And it's just Parfitt could have been handy tonight.
Yeah. Again, I think it goes back to them trying to find that balance between the youth and the experience, and make sure that the youth is still supported as they come through. And so if we go and not that I would bundle Parf into the youth side of things now. What is he, like 26, something like that? Like he's got runs on the board, but he's also not in that top end experience sort of level. And he's like, you want them learning from. And sorry, I'm kind of very, very much casting big picture sort of stuff. You want them learning from the Dangers and those sorts of blokes, and less so like you want them learning from superstars rather than necessarily players who have absolutely been doing a great job and learning their role and developing their craft and valuable contributors to the team like Parf, but they're not the rock star players that you're hoping can guide that next generation to themselves become those rock star sort of players. It's a tricky thing for him, and I hope he finds a spot because he's been having it. Like, I was a bit surprised when he fell out of the senior team because he was playing a really good season. He came in when we needed him, when we had injuries early in the piece, and was doing an amazing job, and is continuing to perform quite well in the VFL as well. So hopefully he does. I guess that's probably why we're not on match selection, right? Because we're trying to fit 50 blokes into a 23 at the end of the day, but.
Yeah,
you can see the names and you can see the experience that's there. That's also missing. It's a really tricky one, and hopefully they can find the spot soon. And then obviously you touched on Reece Stanley before, and the ruck conversation is a big one. I would argue. I know you were saying he was somewhat competitive in the first quarter. I would say he didn't offer much in the first as well. It's just that the team had a real wave of momentum that. I mean, you'd have to be next level rubbish to not even get caught up in that swell of momentum that we had going on. I'm not saying Reece is next level rubbish or anything like that, but he just Yeah, you'd have to be doing something incredibly wrong to not be able to just ride that wave of momentum that we had going in the first quarter there, and even Reece was able to kind of play party to that. But as soon as Grundy started to wrestle back some momentum there and put it down the throats of some of those mids, he completely disappeared. And I had a nickname for Jack the other week. Jack Henry, and you could maybe make the same argument that Reece deserves the 4E title as well, but I won't drop that just yet. We'll give it a little bit longer. But more comments popping up here. Pumping up Mitch Nevitt. His extended run in the VFL is going to be invaluable, similar to Zach Guthrie, and I guess that is kind of a similar sort of thing that Zach Guthrie took a long time just to get the body right. Mitch Nevitt, might be the same, where he just needs that little bit of extra time where he's performing quite well, but just to get the body ready to go.
Yeah,
but he shows all the right signs.
He does, and he's a big fella as well. Like, you just wait in the next couple of years, watch out.
Yeah.
As long as everything goes right, he's going to be lethal.
Mitch Hardy being as we kind of touched on before, Mitch Hardy close, who's kept out of the VFL today only to serve as emergency. Look, it says a lot about how close he was, and clearly I feels like there must have been someone who was right on the edge as to whether they would or wouldn't play today, and Mitch Hardy was ready to go. So it's a bit of a shame that he's ultimately missed out on another opportunity in the VFL to shine, but then not got in the senior game that he's craving as well. But I mean, he feels like one of those ones where it's just a matter of time, and he's got a bit of experience. He's been doing that VFL level for quite some time. He's got the hardened body, so he does feel like the sort of player. I don't know about you, but when the time comes, whenever that time is, and hopefully it's soon, because we've all been wishing it'll be for it to be soon. But whenever that time comes, it feels like he's the player that's ready to just slot straight in and instantly perform the role. Not perfect.
Definitely.
We can't expect him to move mountains, but get his hands on the ball and be effective from the get go.
Definitely. Like, he looks AFL ready. Like, I think he's about 26, 27 years old as well. And he'd be easily leading our best and fairest for the VFL as well. He gets the ball. But he absolutely hurts. But he absolutely hurts the opposition as well. And that's right. And I said this to Ben on a post game live show a few months ago as well. Like our mature age recruits like Mitch Hardy and Sean Manor. If we play them, they could be revelations like when Tom Stewart came to the club.
Yeah. So there's opportunities there. Hopefully those blokes get a game sometime soon. Now, I will note, and I feel like you've been very calm and collected through this conversation so far, and all credit to you, but I won't ignore the fact that I'm just going to bring this back up. Oh boy, I'm fired up was the comment you left on social media before. So it feels like you've left some shots in the holster. Fire them, please. What's anything got you really fired up that you've not discussed yet?
I mean, just probably. I think Tom Papley. He really pissed me off quite a bit. Gee whiz. But the amount of easy looks that the Swans had when they were going for goal, like when we were kicking goals, we had to really work hard for it. But for Sydney, it was just like a knife through butter. It's just so easy, and it just looked like it just looked like the last few games that we played as well. We just gave them so many easy looks.
Yeah.
When we were going in our inside 50, it kept going. Sometimes it landed in Tom McCartan's lap, and I'm like, for goodness sake, it's like Lee Kalia all over again, marking like a prime Matthew Scarlett.
Too soon.
And that's what got me. So it got me really angry as well. It's just like, at times where our back line were just so loose, it was just frustrating to watch. And the 50-meter penalty, I got really fired up.
I'm not about that one. As the commentary team themselves said, like that happens 15, 20 times a game and doesn't get called, and that one did. And it is like the draw. It does feel like you see almost one or two of those a game get pinged, despite the fact that the difference between that incident and others is completely negligible, if non-existent at all. just unlucky that we were on the receiving end. But it certainly gifted Sydney a goal there that we didn't need.
And it's certainly changed the momentum. Certainly changed the momentum of the game, I thought as well. And I put a tweet on about it as well. Like, yeah, but far out. You know, it's yeah, we're always on the bad receiving on the end with these calls sometimes.
Yeah. Look, there's a lot we could say about umpiring. We'll try and I mean, there weren't any. That wasn't a great call, but thankfully wasn't any howlers that kind of cost us tonight that I recall. But yeah, it's problematic sometimes, and we have again continued to find ourselves on the wrong side of the free kick ledger for the night. It was fairly even tonight, 16-14, I think, Sydney's way. Yeah. Certainly, the Swans fans seemed to think that they were getting nothing in that first quarter. Bronx cheered, I think, when Grundy got one, maybe 20 minutes in. I don't know if that was their first for the day or if they just ignored the other free kicks that had come first. But look, that's what happens when you can't get your hands on the ball. It's a similar sort of story. It's why the free kick started to go Sydney's way. Once you start chasing tail, it's pretty hard to earn a free. So I think overall, considering the umpires have been in the gun a little bit this weekend, I feel like overall this week, this particular match was handled pretty well. The umpires have had a pretty rough week otherwise.
Yeah, like the other, because I tend to watch most of the games, and just some of the decisions, especially last night, the St Kilda Gold Coast game, the West Coast North Melbourne game, just absolute howlers. And no, I do agree with you, Paul. This one was quite mild compared to some of the shockers we had yesterday.
Yeah. Look, there's positives. There's some negatives. The umpiring, thankfully, wasn't in the negatives this time. I'm going to just shout out Jackie, who's been calling out Ben, who's been popping in the chat from time to time. Ben, you're still watching.
Who is Ben? What's Ben doing here?
The heist is complete. You're done. Get out of here. Also, you're supposed to be out on like a getaway with your wife. So nick off. Stop coming in here. Earn the brownie points where you got the chance.
Come on,
I'm already basically not sleeping all night. So tonight, just you go do your thing, and I'll burn this ship down in the meantime. But yeah, anyway, get out of here, Ben. And thank you, Jackie, for calling him out. Any other thoughts on the game tonight? And we've of course got a bye next week as well. So what do you think needs to happen in the break there ahead of our next match?
As I said before, make the tough calls, roll the dice, see what some of the young kids can do. I haven't checked the score for the other game at the moment. Last I checked, Carlton were up by about 30 points. And stuff like that.
Blues by 32. I conveniently just checked it's halftime now, and the matchup between the brothers is, how's that tracking at the moment? Harry Mackay has 1 goal from 6 disposals. So well, the scoreline may not be going in the favour of the Bombers, but that one matchup seems to be tracking okay. So for Ben Mackay. Down by 32, halftime.
Okay. Yeah, I saw a bit of the first quarter there, but roll the dice, take some risks and all of that. You know, we see clubs like even Hawthorn who are progressing really well, and I think we're facing them later on the year. And I'll tell you what, they're not going to be easy to face. I think we're going to be facing them at the right time for them as well. But it's got to make the right call. Got to make the tough calls, man. That's all I'm going to say, really.
Look, the thing that is, and whether we're ultimately a premiership contender or not, is that's a whole other conversation. But in terms of our ability to make the finals this year, geez, like things are just falling okay for us. Like I look at the ladder now, and I've toggled on the live ladder, and I see based on the fact that Carlton's winning at the moment, is likely to win. They'll jump into second on the ladder, and Essendon will slip to third. But pending whatever happens tomorrow, unless either Melbourne or Collingwood belts each other, I guess there's a possibility that Melbourne could get smashed considering the effort they put in last week. Yeah, you could also make the argument that considering what happened last week, they might come out and belt Collingwood. I don't know, but like the worst case scenario for us is that we'll be 6th at the end of this round. Like it's despite the fact that we've won 1 game in our last 6 matches,
which is important too.
Yeah,
because I said this as well earlier, like in some of the other shows, like it's important we bank the wins now Because you know we'll have a drop in form and stuff like that. But if we want to make the top four, got to get started putting those wins on the board. I reckon start strong, like what we did in. Yes, and I'm going with 2022 again, but you know, start strong. Let's go undefeated for the rest of the season. You know, let's go all the way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just to bring up 2022, we've had a Swan supporter pop into the chat. So yeah, just remember 2022, okay? Get out of here. We don't like your no. You're all welcome. We'll be good losers, and we'll only curse you once you're gone. Well, mate, it's been awesome to have you on board. We've got a few people here in the chat that we'll want to get some thoughts from as well. But it's been awesome to hear from you and get your thoughts on the match so far. Thanks so much for jumping in, mate.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. And yeah, before I go, I just want to say, I love your match reaction videos. I'm looking forward to listening to this one for this game. Your analysis is absolutely spot on. I love your enough of the week stuff. I have a laugh here and there, and behind the play as well. And I said this to Ben because I went to the game last week against Richmond. I met Ben in person first time last week, and I said to him, like,
"Oh, you must be so disappointed, right?"
I was disappointed at the time, but I said to him, you know, you guys are the best Geelong Cats content on social media. You know, Ben, and the Chaps Chat Cats, keep up the great work. And I love being part of it as well. So keep up the great work, guys.
Thank you very much. It's awesome to have you on board. At the end of the day, the Geelong supporter base is also amazing. So it's been great to have you and the many others that have come through over the course of the years that we've had the platform up and running now. It's been awesome. And yeah, thanks so much for the ongoing support, mate.
Yeah. Cheers, Paul. You have a great night.
You too. Thanks, mate.
See ya.
Just before we bring our next guest in, I'll just jump back to I've kind of refreshed the feed on this one. I'll make sure I do so again just to be 100% sure. But just to get a few other little tweets and ticks and crosses that have come in, let's quickly scroll through for some updates. And I've looked at some of those ones. Stinks expected to lose, then showed some real ticker only to fold like a deck of cards. Hard questions to be asked of the older players. We've, of course, discussed a little bit of that so far already. There's some of the Reece Stanley sentiments, and kind of hard to argue with them after tonight at the very least. Max Holmes, a star, continues to set the world on fire, and I think a serious candidate for Kaji at the end of the year. Atkins, Stengel, Cameron. It was interesting to see Cameron get the tick again. I think it was only kind of really late in the piece where he really started to fire in the ways that we need him to fire. But yeah, some comments there about Sam De Koning and just the need to just compete, struggling to take contested marks inside forward 50. Ben's been clearly ticking, reacting to a lot of these along the way. Again, Ben, you're meant to be out enjoying time with the family. Do so, please, so that I can burn this ship down while you're gone. We'll come back for a few more as they pop up. Sydney second after the bye on their home deck. It was probably going to be put down as a loss, but nonetheless showed enough of our best. Need a 4-quarter effort. There are some of these notes that we've already hit so far that have been expressed. All right, next up, Ethan, come aboard, mate.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
I'm all right. Honestly, much more content with that than any of the other losses because, in part, the nature of it, and in part, just like, look, the Swans are so far above everybody else right now.
Yeah.
I put out a tweet earlier, and it's got double-digit likes. There's a power ranking. There's Sydney. There's a massive gap. Then there's
daylight, and then the rest.
Then Suns at home. Then there's a mix of we're in. Then there's the Crows and Saints in this little sad world of what if. Then at the bottom, there's Richmond, North and West Coast. And then below that is the Suns on the road.
Checks out. And we unfortunately had to come across the front runners this week. Our turn was coming. It was an admirable performance. Like, we obviously lost by 30 points, but like you, I'm disappointed, but I'm not devastated by it. I would have loved to have seen, like, after the start that we got, that we found a way to kind of grit the teeth and arrest that momentum back when you knew it was going to turn at some point. You knew that this is how every game goes. The opposition's going to get their turn at some stage, and it's how you deal with it. And we didn't quite deal with it right, but overall, I was still pretty happy with what we put forward. And then that ticket came back again late in the piece and fired another few final shots. Didn't quite work out because we ran out of legs, but I was overall pretty happy. But sorry, I'm taking the moment from you.
No, it's
back
okay.
over you, mate.
My frustrations are more just we got beaten the ways that we've been losing. It's a lot of the stuff. It's not getting clearances, getting crushed in ruck contests. I thought Stanley's first quarter was actually terrific. I will say that, but
maybe I've sold him his first quarter a bit short. I don't know. I'll have to go check that one out again.
But you know what? The clip from Arsenal Fan TV?
Yes, I think so. Which clip was that one?
No.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
I hope that for the older crop that's getting phased out, I hope they can during the bye just talk with these guys and ask how do you want to go about this, because I think for this season and long term we need to back in our best 22, 23 guys.
Yep. And
I think it was it Kyrie who was just on, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he was saying, look at what the Hawks are doing. I don't think playing the young guys will lower our ceiling at all. I think we're in that mix of teams 2 through 13. We could be anywhere in that. I think Carleton and Collingwood are two of the better ones there, but I think we can run with any of those teams.
Well, we'll know soon. We got another crack at the Blues pretty soon, and the Pies a few weeks down the line after that. So,
but I'd just much rather have these struggles with the young guys. Like I look at O'Sheen, who I was really low on after the Giants loss, where I thought, all right, just give him give him like a month plus in the twos, maybe the whole rest of the season. And to his credit, he's come back and actually played pretty well. Like he faded some after his first quarter, but the speed was still on display. And it's like, I'd rather take the lumps with him and, with Conway, although I had said for a while, this would have been a tough matchup for Toby. Just Grundy's mobility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly an area of weakness for Toby still, and that will come. But also, I don't think he's necessarily the natural-born athlete either. He's not going to be the Reece Stanley in that sense.
Yeah, I thought
that's fine.
Thought we needed Blitzobs more there, and one reason I think we can lift some in the second half of the season is we haven't had the version of Blitzobs we had in the last 2 seasons yet. He's been all right, but he hasn't been the guy that we've seen, and we know he's capable of being an all-Australian. Yeah,
I'd agree. I mentioned this in the reaction video. He's well down this year. Like he's just not getting his hands on the ball, and I think it's not necessarily because he's doing something wrong. I think it's more about how he's being used.
He's just been okay, and we know a lot more than that. Like I think about his 2021 season when he was all right, and then he came. If he has one down year and then 2 great ones, I can live with it. Yeah. But I think within this season, he can give us more. I think we can get. We've got to figure out the tall defenders. I had a feeling Amarty would go for a couple against us. He had 3?
Yeah, I think so. In the end, I'll double check that, but I think you're right with the 3 figure.
Where we're
waiting for it to load.
Look at how many times lately we've been giving up triple digits, and yes, again,
3 goals too.
This is the best opponent, but someone out of Jack Henry or Sam DeConing or giving Connor O'Sullivan another crack, someone's got to stand up there. I thought Henry started the game really well, but then he faded again. Tall have given us way too many problems.
Yeah, look, Sam, I've been kind of one to have a crack at Sam about his body language more than anything else, but I can't argue with the skill set. And I think what's starting to shine through a little bit now is that like he's young. Let's obviously not lose sight of that. And he's got plenty of time to develop. But if he gets beaten once or twice, or there's just a heavy flow of delivery coming into the defensive line end, because maybe our midfield's getting smacked around a little bit, his head drops and he doesn't compete properly. And I can't remember. Someone put it in one of the tweets. Oh, here it is. Matt Anderson responding to the ticks and crosses. It was SDK, just compete. And he's 100% on the money that when things are kind of going against him a little bit, his head drops and he doesn't compete in the ways that we know he can. And suddenly he's kind of reaching into a contest rather than bodying up and then trying to spoil. Like there's very visible differences between a Sam De Koning who is up and about and one who is completely off the boil. And as has been kind of mentioned, like his body language is poor. So
it's kind of the opposite of Asava, where like you never know what you're going to get 5 seconds from now.
But the intensity is always there, right? Yeah. And you could never question that.
Yeah, and then Jack Henry, I mean, it's like the one where he was just standing there and Amarty basically just plucked it out of his hands. That can't happen.
Look, I mean, he was right in his comments to the umpire that, well, actually, come on, shouldn't it be a ball up or something like that? But also, it passed through his hands, and then he didn't even turn around to tackle him. Like, show some intent.
Yeah, there was also one where Reece Stanley late in the game, just let Grundy mark against him and didn't do anything to contest it. Yeah. And that's, I think for the rest of the year, we got to look at getting the guys, whether we make finals or not, you got to keep, give the guys a shot. The Humphreys, the Hardys, the Nevitts. Let's see what we can do with this.
Yeah.
And, talk with the older batch, the Tui and Rowan, because I think Tui, Rowan, Duncan, and Stanley could all be done. Whereas Hawk has resurrected himself the last few weeks, and I think he has earned the agency to be able to say if he's going to come back next year or not.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if he turns around at the end of the season and says, "Give me one more," I think he's earned that. He's earned that obviously with all the credits he's earned over the course of the years, but even with how he's kind of turned his season around after it was 4 weeks in the end where he was goalless, and even that fifth week was a bit rough as well, despite the fact that he got on the board. But now he's starting to body up again. He's starting to get he's get those sticky fingers going again. There's all the right sort of signs starting to emerge, and of course he's having a bit of fun with his left to right drifter from his favorite pocket as well. So there's things that are starting to click for him again. I think if he turns around and says, "I want to go one more time," you could justify it. Now, there is a broader conversation around, well, what does that mean for the young forwards that are coming through? And that is a very tricky one there, because Shannon Neely is starting to show signs. And does he crack the SADs if what seems like his golden opportunity in 2025 and beyond suddenly has to get put on the back burner again?
Yeah.
That's part of the list management challenges that you'll have as well. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Jackie's also just popped in the chat here, just saying she wants to see Gary Rowan start the game, forget the sub business. The pressure is, and I would agree. I know you obviously threw Gary Rowan out there a moment ago, but I think when he's been on, he's been a really valuable contributor. It's just been too little, too late for him.
Yeah, I mean he was unlucky with his injury timeline, but I think he's getting towards the end of the line.
Oh yeah, I mean obviously, yeah, he's on the wrong side of 30 now, I believe, if I remember, but he hasn't lost that speed. So
yeah, whereas my next subject, Mitch Duncan, the lack of speed, the one Warner just blew by him,
Well, yeah, that didn't look great at the end, and he was kind of cruising. I don't think he realized what was coming up over his left shoulder, but also he shouldn't have been cruising. So,
and in the past, Duncan, even if he wasn't the fastest, just the kicking accuracy was ridiculous, and that's
the game smarts.
Yeah, and that's the physical skill should decline. That's normal, but the mental side shouldn't. I think he's getting. I think we're towards the end of the line with him. Yeah. And if we could, at the end of the year, be seeing off 4 premiership players, that would be great. But I still want to make use out of this season, because if we just back in the old guys every week, what's our ceiling? If everything somehow falls into place, maybe we play a prelim. Maybe.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, yeah, if all the old blokes are in, and let's assume, as you say, all the pieces kind of fall together, and then they remain fit, then I look at that list and go, well, why couldn't we potentially go all the way? I mean, we kind of pushed the Swans at different points today. There was kind of 15-minute bursts on 2 occasions today that really ultimately did us in.
Yeah, that's
and when you have the experienced head suddenly in the list on the team, you go, oh, maybe, but at the same time, that's very much an all chips in option, and I don't think the club is at that. We're putting all the chips on the table sort of place. I think that was 2022, and we got what we were chasing that year.
It felt like, even when we got off to such a nice start, it felt like, we benefited from some broken plays and stuff. And, I was thinking maybe, there's a world where we jump on them. They're a little slow out of the bye. And I think that happened. And it was just, unfortunately, we couldn't parlay that over the entire game. But it always felt like their charge was coming. And I think, it kind of built slowly as Grundy started to get in the game more. But, back to the thing about, the discussion about clearances and ground level stuff. Like, look, it's the solution. It would be great if we find out that Matt Rowell wants to come down or something. But
Harley Reid is a Geelong supporter as a kid. Let's take him on. Ashcroft, he was too. Bring him back. We can do this, right? That's how the salary cap works.
Realistically, I just want someone who can give this, another guy who can do what James Rowbottom does, who I think, he probably doesn't get into Brownlow or coaches votes today, but I thought he was really important.
He was excellent. Yeah.
He's such a strong player, and that's the type of guy that for clearances and tackling, we're missing a little of right now.
And we've kind of got those players who are willing to put their body on the line, but they don't necessarily have the pace. And not that he's some sort of whippet, but he's pretty quick, and he reads the game well. He's got some speed as well, and he kind of brings all of those kind of key pillars that you'd want to see as a midfielder to the table. And so he's really valuable. And a lot of ours, I think about Tommy Atkins, who cannot question the intent, puts his head over the ball.
Oh, no doubt.
Incredible, super brave, but he's missing the speed, and his disposal's not his greatest strength. He's not a bad possessor of the ball, but it's not his strength, right? Whereas someone like a Rowbottom has all 3 of those to different degrees, but he has all 3 of those boxes ticked, and that's a point of difference there. And they've got Sydney, to their great credit, they've got quite a few of those players. Again, they got brought up here in the chat who was on Golden today, and we lack a tagger. Well, Blitzars was kind of on Golden at different points, and was
What's the logical matchup? I thought Blitzars would have made more sense with Grundy. But
I was even thinking, outside of Reece Stanley obviously getting smacked, assuming that Reece was able to somewhat break even or be competitive, which he ultimately wasn't, then I felt like Heaney was kind of the right matchup for Blitzars, because there's that height thing that you can kind of counter a little bit. You can run with him.
I would have probably leaned more towards Warner, but I was a little surprised we didn't use O'Connor to tag more.
Yeah.
Which
we've seen how effective that's been in the past, right?
Yeah, I will say, I thought, especially first half, I thought he played really well. He cooled off some, but I thought he had a good game. It was not why we lost.
No.
A couple weeks ago, we were right to take him out of the team. He's responded. Give him a lot of credit there, but why are we not using him to tag? I mean, look at what he's done to Lachie Neale. I guess Well,
that's the thing. You said Mark O'Connor's name, and I think I heard Lachie Neale shudder on the other side of Australia.
Usually I just think of him, giving away a free kick reversal or something. But it's just frustrating. And this is a credit to the Swans. There's no one obvious tag. So I think we were kind of in a dilemma today with O'Connor. It's like when you're playing chess, you only have one queen. It's like he can't tag 3 different guys.
But then we chose to not use him at all in that regard. Just so, there's pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah, it was tough matchup wise. But I would have liked to see something else there. There was one thing O'Connor did that really bugged me. There was where he tried to tackle Sam Wicks and got torn apart. And just our tackling has not been good this year.
Yeah.
We've struggled with two things defensively. Opposing tall forwards and tackling. We just aren't sticking tackles. I don't know if this is something that can be accessed, but the percentage of tackles that get broken, I feel like ours, it has to be higher than just about any other team. And is that a fitness thing? I don't know, but that is a big concern. And that's been for the last month and a half.
It feels like a bit of a technique thing, and I don't necessarily mean the ability to tackle, because the players are all well drilled on kind of the best ways to physically tackle the player, in terms of locking the arms or not getting around the waist because then it's easy to get the hands. All those sorts of technical things, I'm sure they're perfectly fine at. It feels like it stems from a degree of that ability on their feet to be kind of fleet of foot, and they're getting wrong footed, and so then they're kind of reaching for the player rather than actually nailing the body. Because you see, like we've seen a few times, and I think now, admittedly, I think Jack Bowes is not necessarily suffering from this problem, but I think about some of the tackles he's laid in recent weeks, and of course, some of the ones in the Gold Coast game where he had a little bit of extra fire in the belly. The technique was not his concern in that regard, and it wasn't intent. Like he just nailed a few blokes, and you could see it in the first quarter as well. Like they were just nailing him because the speed was there, the intensity was there, and they gave them no space.
But
then they get a bit of distance, and all of a sudden you're reaching, and it doesn't. Yeah, the execution's not there anymore, and they can get brushed aside.
Yeah, there was the one in particular that I had written down. Thanks, John.
I was going to say, mad respect from John, who's a Sydney supporter, I believe, right? He's been popped in a few times. Appreciating John, though, he's been entertaining.
But it was actually on the goal that gave the Swans the lead, where Holmes turned it over because it was a nice play by McDonald and Rowbottom to get it. And then, Wicks just powered through an O'Connor tackle and then ended up setting Papley up. Papley's such an annoying player, but I got to say, he's a good character. He plays the villain role well. Can't stand him. But he seems like, off the oval, good dude. Kind of
look, I can actually tolerate him. We talk about the kind of the villain characters, and when we talk about the villain characters and bring that Geelong lens to it, I instantly think about the likes of I think of Fremantle pretty much. I think of Ballantyne. I think of Crowley. I won't talk too much shit about Crowley because he was a local from here. I might get jumped by someone over the fence, but I certainly think of Hayden Ballantyne, and there was a certain way that they would carry themselves in terms of, yes, there was kind of that crazy intensity that we kind of saw from Papley today, but at the same time, they were never really disrespectful to the opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we saw. Like he was so up and about, and because he's been kind of struggling for form for a little while, and he nailed a few, and then he just wound up his teammates. It was awesome. But then you see him wander back, and he starts. Now I don't know if I don't get too crazy about body language, especially kind of the game in 2024 and the conversations that players have. You do see O'Sheen having a chat, having a bit of a laugh with him after he kicked his third or something like that. I don't love it, but I'm not like staunchly opposed to it. But like he doesn't come wandering up to a player after he's kicked his third or fourth and starts to try and bash him around and be a dick about it. He just goes back to his position and he butters up again and tries to kick another goal, and then he thoroughly enjoys it when he does. Like I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no, I like him as a character. If we had him, I'd be going nuts over him.
Yeah. But every forward line want a player like that.
Oh yeah, I think Tyson, maybe not personality-wise and body language-wise like that, but that first quarter and the bouncer he kicked to the sharp angle, that might be our goal of the week. I thought he was really good there.
Yeah, I think that's a front runner at this point.
We got to get him going more because we didn't get the ball to him enough after, and I thought, once again, our best sequences usually involve Brad Close, who finished with, 9 touches?
Yeah. Get that to 15, and all of a sudden it feels like sometimes it'll be a very different game.
Oh, yeah.
We're not talking about crazy numbers either. Like 15 is a perfectly respectable number. We're not trying to expect the world from him. And I'm not saying he's even at fault for the lack of numbers either, because it's often, well, the problem is often at the source in the first place. But
we got to get
when he gets mid-teens, things look a bit different.
Maybe, I would even, like, if we're struggling to get the ball past midfield, slide him back farther, because he can get things. As much as I've been a critic of his one-on-one defending, let's get Jack Henry moving the ball more, because he's actually got some pretty good skill there.
Yeah, very true. The questions, and you obviously just talking about Tyson. The question just got asked there: when will we lock Tyson in for the next 4 to 5 years? Because that contract is still in limbo at the moment. It feels like things are heading in the right direction, but it's been kind of slow going. So, well, let's hope that we lock Tyson down nice and soon.
I'd like to think that we get these things done quietly.
Yeah.
Whereas with American sports, usually contract negotiations are all very public.
Very public. Except
for the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves, somehow nothing ever gets out, and then post the graphic on Twitter, and there it is. We traded for this guy and gave him a 7-year extension. So I like it. But
what out of pure curiosity, because I don't really know the game as well, what makes them different? Why do you think that happens with them?
I don't know. I think they just keep things in house, I guess.
It's one of those interesting ones where it's obviously, when you're trading someone in, it takes 2 to tango, and yet nothing seems to come out about a player that is headed to the Atlanta Braves.
It's amazing. They're one of a kind there. But just big picture conclusion from this game is, I don't think our ceiling, again, gets any lower. Backing the young guys in. I want to see what these guys can do. I want to, we can compete this year while still playing for the future.
Yeah.
Because realistically, I would give the Swans, a healthy Swans team, it would take a lot for them to not win this thing. They're so good.
Yeah, I think their only obstacle at this point is injury. If things kind of go pear-shaped, and I as I was saying when we're like at the very beginning of the call there, I want to, if we play against the Swans, I do want to play against a full strength Swans, so that if we beat them, and fingers crossed that we do, that we can sit back and go, well, we beat the best. We had to get this thing done. We had to beat the best. So
again, it means we're in a final, and either we won an elimination final or we made the top 4. So it would be hard to complain if we're playing them again.
Yeah,
because it would mean we've had a damn good year.
But that said, yeah, it feels like it's going to take a lot for them to not win it all at this point, and specifically injury. Injury is the obstacle.
I will say, they probably lose 2 to 3 more games between now and the end of the season. It's hard to win 20, 21 games.
Yeah.
And I'm still backing in. I've had this one called for 2 months. The Crows are going to beat them.
The Crows will be the ones that beat them.
This coming week. I've had this game circled because I said after the Crows had a couple of their early losses, at some point they're going to have this game, and it's going to be like, where the hell was that all year? And I said, it's going to be round 14 against the Swans.
Makes sense. Look, I'm shocked that the Crows are doing as poorly as they are. They are, on paper, they've got a lot of the right pieces. They're just not putting it together.
Throw Rochelle into center bounces. I have some perspective. I feel a lot better about us compared to a lot of clubs. It's just, we want to be at the top, and it's pretty clear who's at the top right now, and we have to go up. But I'm not hopeless, because we showed we can compete with them. It would take a lot to beat them.
Exactly.
But we have pieces.
Yes. There's a lot of the right pieces there. There's just, a few things that need to be shuffled around. Maybe a few of these pieces need to be rotated, and all of a sudden we've got a list that's super competitive in 12 months. Obviously, kind of we were talking Tyson, and we're talking about, I guess, a degree of list management stuff there. I don't often host this, so I'll lean into it a little bit in terms of some off-season movements. What is potentially required here? Obviously, there's all the conversation around, I'm just going to be horribly disrespectful until he joins the Cats. Bailey Sniff, specifically. All the conversations around him potentially joining the Cats.
I thought
Is he the sort of thing that fixes our woes?
I think he would help. I still think he ends up at Collingwood, but that would help. Just and I know we'd throw him in the middle and we wouldn't just stick him out on the wing. Yeah.
No, he'll be where he wants to be.
Yeah. So that would be huge. Look, it might be, the solutions might be not so much in the big name guys. I mean, I do think we still lack, maybe one more like ace in the hole, big time guy.
Yes, I'd agree.
But I think we, sometimes it's just needing more good supplemental pieces. And I think we're, you find a Tyson Stengel or something.
Yeah.
Elliot Yeo, by the way, just saw the comment you put up there. When healthy, monster.
Yeah, he's absolutely elite.
5 games. Pulls his hamstring every other week. But
which is his great undoing. But yeah, he's full flight is amazing.
He would address so many of our concerns. Also, I think he's kind of a Hugh McCluggage-ish player.
Yeah.
Where, he's a bit of a loose cannon, and McCluggage, he can do that because he has Lachie Neale and guys like Harris Andrews there to cover for his mistakes, whereas Davies Uniacke, when he
doesn't have that at all.
Doesn't work. Other than Charlie Comben, there's nobody there to do that. By the way, very glad North won. I did not want to play them in Tasmania with them yet to win a game.
Yeah, because it feels like the sort of game we lose, right?
Yeah. Even as we've done against them, I'm glad that's out of the way now. It had to be someone, and I'm glad it's not us.
Exactly right. Look, I mean, we've had John, so we've had Bailey Smith discussed here going to the Pies. Another one, John, also saying Bailey's going to the Pies. I chat to people. Those people they're not at the Cats. They're people that work for other clubs, and they're all fairly confident that he's coming our way still. They're reading the tea leaves that he's going to be a Cat. So
very happy. And I'd love to see him get a fresh start, and just got to give him a bit of the culture.
Yeah, I think it's getting him ingrained and getting him part of it. Obviously, there is that temptation of the Pies, and he is good mates with the Dacos boys, and there's certainly some boxes that ticks for him. But everything I'm hearing says Geelong still, and that's not Geelong people talking to me. That is other people talking to me. I'll leave it at that.
I just wish we could have our own Matt Rowell. Yeah,
it'd be nice. That'd be real nice.
That's the one that.
But maybe we do. Maybe it's Jai Clark. Like, his body's not quite developed, as developed as Matty Rowell was straight out the gate. And of course, Matty Rowell was, leaving all behind him in his first few games until he busted his shoulder in a contest with Joel Selwood, I believe it was. I think he went head to head with Joel, and Joel did him in. But Jai Clark, I still feel like could be that. We see the way he throws himself around in these contests without the body to necessarily do it yet. And no matter how badly he gets bashed up in some of these, he butters up again. He's got all the right qualities in terms of the way he brings himself to the game. And if that body can develop a little bit and he builds that frame, I wonder if we don't already have our Matt Rowell.
You know what I liked about him tonight? And I think this has been the case a lot of weeks. He didn't play a terrific game, but he, always on to the next play. He pointed out the opposite of that with Sam DeConing.
Yeah.
And he seems to get better as games go on. If we can find someone to do a second quarter, like we can count on him in the fourth quarter, that would be nice. Because the second quarters, it's not a secret. It's been awful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're now three second quarter wins from whatever we played. What are we, 8 wins, 5 losses from our 13 games. So
I would just, we had chances there. I know we ended up getting another goal after, but Hawkins hitting the post, that felt big, even though we did still one with Shannon's goal. We could have gotten that to the point of no return. I really think.
Yeah, I think we're probably only another goal or two away from really, really deflating them.
They still would have made a push at some point. They're too good not to. But I think they would have used up all their energy just to get, to back within a goal or two. And instead, they had plenty of energy. And it was just, like I said, there was this sense of inevitability once they snapped off the couple in a row in the second quarter.
Yeah, I think that's that 10 minutes, that 15 minutes, whatever it was in the second term was really the damage dealing bit, because not only did they, pull back the lead, but they pulled back in such a short space of time. So to your point about burning energy, they had plenty in the tank, and they had a halftime break still in front of them.
And that's where we need Tom Stewart to just pull down a big intercept mark or something. He was okay today.
Yeah.
The one
he's not been the same since he's been getting this extra attention. He has not been the same.
The one turnover to McInerney was really bad and very unlike him.
Yeah. He's feeling the pressure. I think and we're all human, but I think he's feeling the pressure. It's every single week, and he's looking, I think, for something to kind of reinvigorate, to kind of kickstart him again. And as a defender who plays the sort of role he does, peeling one amazing disposal off that sets off this chain down the ground would be one of those moments. And he's probably looking for the opportunity. Maybe looked a little bit too hard, got a bit too ambitious with this one, and blew it.
Yeah, I think that's also where just a little support from Henry or DeConing would go a long way. But he's had moments that I've liked. It was in the third quarter against GWS where after a defensive breakdown led to a goal, he was pointing stuff out to guys. Like, I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah.
I'm not always, leadership doesn't have to be this like visual rah thing. But I think getting that out of Stewart, I think that does really permeate the rest of the club. So that's something I'd like to see more of out of the bye.
I'd be interested in Jackie's just, I've pinned it here for us that Jai's a centimetre taller, and Jackie clarified with a subsequent comment that actually a kilo heavier. So the Raul is a kilo heavier. But like, Jackie, are you able to just clarify? I assume you're talking about at the same point in their career, right? Not in their second season, but I guess obviously the height thing's not going to change, but the weight thing, that's fascinating. They kind of got the similar sort of, I guess, physical profile at similar points in their career. Yeah, but to the point made by by several people here in the chat that we're talking about Danger and Cam Guthrie and some of those bigger bodies. I know we obviously want to get some of the new faces in, but just having one or two of those bigger bodies in there that can push through the tackles, or as we were discussing earlier in the call at this point, being able to stick some of those tackles as well, that'll help.
I would like to think Danger will be back out of the bye. I don't know what the situation is. He had the one good game and then struggled and then got hurt. But yeah, Danger will help.
Absolutely. It feels like he was really close to getting a gig this week.
Yeah, but look,
I think he was fighting for it, but the club had shown their hand weeks and weeks ago. So,
and considering, look at what happened to Port a couple months ago when they rushed Rosie back in. It's as much as you want to throw guys in there, playing it safe, especially with someone of his age, is the appropriate move.
Absolutely right.
If we went out of the bye, I will be very optimistic. Not just because we'd have swept Carlton, but that would be a win over a really good team. And then we
look. Sorry, go on.
We got this stretch of a bunch of big Melbourne clubs.
Be good to make some statements there. Certainly, it felt like in that first quarter and a half, really, that this was our opportunity to kind of make a statement and just put some of the negativity to rest. But didn't quite work out. But as you say, there's some opportunities coming with some of those big Melbourne clubs as well that maybe we can take those opportunities nice and soon.
Yeah, I really want to beat the Hawks. That's the one that I've been looking at for a while.
I mean, as Geelong supporters, we have to want to beat Hawthorn more than any other team. So,
I obviously don't have the history, and I really enjoy the way they built their team, but I want to beat the crap out of them.
Oh, it's really interesting seeing what's been going on at Hawthorn lately, and it's if I had the ability to relate to a Hawthorn supporter, which I absolutely don't, I can't. I'd be really excited if I was them because they're doing some pretty cool stuff. they've got a great list in a very young age who's showing some amazing signs.
And
I hate the idea that they could be right up there near the pointy end sometime soon.
We need to find a way to counter, because the future. You talked about Port earlier. You talked about the Rosies and Butters and Horn Francis. I mean, I would throw that Day Newcomb Nash mix. Warple.
Yeah.
Warple's from around Geelong, isn't he?
Yeah. I think he was a Geelong boy, if I recall.
Yeah, I think he and Grind are pretty close, actually.
Maybe a bit like Ollie Henry. He could just get homesick and come down the freeway.
That would. Guy who gets clearances.
Yeah. Look, I wouldn't object. He's got some class.
Yeah.
Well, Ethan, it's been awesome to chat, mate. I can see Brendan and Bianca maybe slightly going insane in the background here. So I might need to bring them both in. It's been very entertaining seeing the two of them play some games on camera here, but we'll let everyone else in on the act now, mate. It's been awesome to get to chat. Any final thoughts from you?
Let's take advantage of this bye and get ready to really run at this thing, and let's do it with the young guys. Back in the kids.
Yeah.
Rather win with the young guys. Rather win with the young guys.
Yeah. We can see the profile of this changing before our very eyes. Let's hope that they're getting that. Well, I mentioned kind of threading the needle in terms of phasing people in and out before. Hopefully they can get that just right. It seems like we're on the right track, and hopefully we're chasing silverware again nice and soon.
Let's do it.
It could still happen this year. Who knows? It could still happen. Maybe Sydney gets wiped out by a virus in the week we play them. You never know. Thanks a lot, mate. Enjoy. What time is it over there at the moment?
I am actually in the central time zone, so it's 6:21 in the morning.
It's almost tolerable.
I am in Alabama, and I'll be driving into Tennessee in a couple hours.
We'll enjoy that drive. Rest up in the meantime. How long is that drive?
Just like 2 hours into Nashville. A little less than that.
Not too bad.
Catch you around.
Well, enjoy that, mate. Enjoy the day ahead, and thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me.
See you, mate.
See ya.
All right, let's bring him in. Brendan, Bianca, how are you guys?
Good.
How are you feeling?
How you feeling?
Not great. We had a good start, but then just our clearance work just started to fall apart, and I knew that our midfielders had to tighten up against the best midfield in the comp in Warner, Goulding, and Heaney. I knew it was going to be a hard contest, and Mitch Hardy, when we were going home, when we were listening to the radio, Daddy was recording, and someone was recording Chris Scott before the game.
Stephen
King. And they said Mitch Hardy, they're not taking any risks, so Mitch Hardy didn't play a game this week for the twos, and not for the seniors either.
So what's the risk that they weren't taking?
No, so there must have been someone injured in the
okay.
in the senior team, and everyone had been on social media waiting for the announcement that he had to have been playing. They're like, he has to be playing.
We were sweating on it behind the scenes for sure.
Yeah. So we were listening to K-Rock on the way home from the VFLW, and when we're going to Stephen King, I grabbed my phone out and I'm recording. I'm going, he's going to make the announcement right now, and I'm going to plaster this all over social media that Mitch Hardy's in. And he says, they asked him to go say Mitch Hardy, and they're like, oh, look, he's really, really, really close, but it's not going to make it today. He was just over here just as a precaution. I was like, oh, what?
Look, we had the same sort of conversations going in the back end. Ben had already made his footy card, was ready to go. He was ready to post it, and what did he say? He just said ready with it, and then not happening apparently. So we got this close, real close. Again, Ben doing work that he shouldn't be while he's meant to be traveling, spending time with the family and the loved ones. But he seems to have disappeared from the chat for now. So well behaved, Ben. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that he just missed out, but then we do see the likes of, I guess it was another opportunity for some of those other young blokes, the Lawson Humphreys, who's been discussed a little bit today, but the many young guys that are playing in that VFL level to shine in the absence of Mitch Hardy, who's kind of been the face of it for weeks. It was some really good signs as well.
He had an unbelievable last quarter, Lawson Humphries. Like, he's had such an awesome start to his to the year, but he showed in that last quarter he's up for the big moment because Sydney were pushing really hard to win, and he had some massive defensive efforts.
Yeah,
and then
he kicked a goal.
Then he kicks a massive goal that's just absolutely clutch. And then just to make it better, like he follows us on Instagram right after it. So that's it.
Very nice.
Straight after it. So, but we were talking about Matt Rowell as well. I reckon we've got our Matt Rowell in George Stevens. I've talked about him in the preseason. I absolutely love him. I loved him last year watching him in the VFL. And he scared me a bit in the first few weeks. I was like, oh, he does look a bit slow. But the last few weeks, he's just improving to the point where I'm like, no, he is the gem that I think he is. So
yeah, it feels like he's trimmed down a bit and kind of got himself into AFL sort of level shape. And of course, that's going to continue to take time over the years. It doesn't happen in one season alone, but it does feel like he's finding the body figure that's going to suit him best in the game. And yeah, I mean, he could absolutely be that sort of player as well. He certainly isn't shy around the contests. So I'd love it if we've got another one in there as well.
And it's just also when you think about it, these players that we're talking about, how we got them as well. It's what was it? Mitch Edwards, George Stevens, Lawson Humphries for Asava Radicalea.
Were they all the picks that were linked to Asava?
They were the picks. They were the picks that Kane Corns mocked us about haggling for picks and everything like that. George Stevens and Lawson Humphries are the two players that we ended up getting. So, that could be great to just hang on him for years to come. Like, that's really cool.
Mitchell Edwards played his first game.
Mitch Edwards played his first game today as well. So
I actually didn't see much of the VFL game today. So how did Mitch go in his first match?
I didn't see much of him, but the stats just showed 11 hitouts and I think 8 disposals. But he was coming back from a pretty serious.
Yeah, feels like he's being eased in there.
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting a lot from him, anyways. But
almost better than Sava, almost.
So,
at least.
So, yeah. What else did you want to talk about? You've been talking.
Yeah, I've kept you hanging for ages. I've seen the two of you chatting in the background the entire time. Lots of faces and things going on too, but. But Dad, what do you have to say about the game? What's still on the mind? Talk to me about Reece Stanley. Talk to me about Mitch Duncan. All the hot button topics at the moment that people want to chat about. Where do you stand?
I think Hawkins had a pretty good game.
Agreed. I'd agree with that.
Dingle did some pretty good things, but that Blitzhouse kick just.
I felt like
that snapshot for goal, or are you talking about ground play at some point? Yeah.
No, this shot for goal.
He rehearsed it so many times, and then I'm like, oh, he's going to nail this. He's making sure of it. He's making sure of it. He's not rushing it, and then sprays it worse than he could possibly have done any other time.
He convinced everyone he was going to kick it. Everyone watching thought, oh, he's got this, and then
they kicked down the ball
and shanked it.
It just went straight. I was like, what?
And then Mitch Duncan had a similar one, but
I feel like going into the game, if you had told me like, oh, we're going to get within 5 goals, I would have thought that's pretty good because Sydney are awesome. But then after the first quarter, it was like everything just changed. I'm like, oh, okay, now we want to win this. And to be honest, like maybe the first 10, 15 minutes of the second quarter, we could have seriously put them away. But our inside 50s in the second quarter, like early in the second quarter, was just ridiculous. We just kept bombing in, and it was just the same stuff all year. And
I thought Cole Jasny took some really good marks, and he did some pretty good things. We had some patches of play that just didn't stand for us. The Sydney midfielders and Logan McDonald just really put us away, but Tom Papley really just put us away in that last quarter.
Yeah, look, we were obviously chatting about him earlier in the call, and I don't mind Tom Papley because he's got that small forward energy, but kind of carries himself mostly the right way. But that said, I still didn't appreciate how excited he was getting. It kind of hurts a little bit at the time. So Amy's just commented there saying Edwards only played half the game just to ease him into it. So that gives us that little bit of extra perspective there. But yeah, it was I guess, Brennan, your comment about the ball being dumped in, it's been kind of the problem all year. When as soon as we kind of lose that nuance and that poise going inside 50, it's over.
Hawkins must be tearing his hair out. Like,
yeah.
Because there's only so much he can do. He kind of, his game relies on getting some good supply.
Yeah.
Like,
and not frequent supply, but high quality supply. You're right.
Yeah.
It's why everyone talks about that connection between him and Duncan or him and Selwood. It's because they laced it out to him.
Yeah. So, it's hard because, like,
we have lots of old players.
A lot of people are getting stuck into him, but like he really relies on that. Especially at his age, he relies on that supply. And that second quarter, I tell you, that early in that second quarter, we easily could have got a 10-goal lead.
Yeah.
Some
wasted opportunities. Some wasted opportunities.
And then as soon as that spark, that midfield, they just need that spark. And that's it. They are just absolutely...
They're gone.
They are ridiculous how fast they are. And, I felt bad. There was sometimes, I felt bad for Mitch Duncan trying to chase. Like, not going to catch those players. Like,
say what you want about Mitch Duncan and how he's going, but he had no chance speed-wise, even in his prime of keeping up with some of those blokes.
No chance. So... But
it's this crazy thing to that and that speed that they've got through the midfield. There was this time, and you'd remember it well, that kind of early or that mid 2000s, early 2010s, where it was just they were just trying to find athletes wherever. And I think about for Geelong, for example, it was just like Kane Tenace, for example, came in and his speed was electric, but he had the skills weren't his forte. Now we're starting to find these players who, and then we kind of found this phase. We got, Mark Butzavs, and it's more about endurance and those sort of things. And obviously Mark's done some incredible things for us, but now we're starting to find this thing. We're kind of reverting back to that Kane Tenace model, only these guys can kick as well. Like it's crazy the speed and skill that's coming into the game at the moment. And the pairing of those two things is lethal.
Yeah.
I just want to talk that in the first quarter, Reece Stanley.
Oh, here we go.
It was coming.
Let him have it. Let him have it.
Please. Go for it.
Reece Stanley took 3 contested marks. The rest of the game,
did he?
Took no. It's the old Reece Stanley we used to see.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he took 3 contested marks. I felt like he was non-factor even in the first term.
No, he took a couple of marks. I was like, hello, look at this. And then all of a sudden it was like, there's Reece.
There he is.
But especially like the last quarter, it was legit like he'd completely given up.
He
like,
checked out.
If you actually watch, he's just got his hands up like token pressure. I'm like, dude, we might as well put Max Holmes in the ruck because you're not winning the ruck contests and you're not giving us anything. Like it was almost like he was hoping to be subbed out. Like,
well, I think he was probably expecting it to be coming, and then Shannon Neal got injured, and so the hand was forced.
He was like, He's like, damn it.
I guess I'll just trot it out.
Go back to the twos, Reece Stanley.
But another thing made me that I was thinking about is some teams are just like spoilt for riches when it comes to ruckman. Have a think about look at what we've had to struggle with. We've had Reece Stanley for so long. Melbourne had Max Gawn and somehow just got
Grundy on the list at the same time.
Give to him, and they couldn't make it work. So they go, we'll just offload him to Sydney. No worries. You go.
No, to Collingwood.
No, they had.
No, he came from Collingwood to Melbourne and then Melbourne to Sydney.
They said, we'll just give him to Sydney. No worries. What? And then you got like Freo. They got Darcy, and they just go out and get what's their other
Jackson.
Luke Jackson.
And then you got Adelaide. Adelaide drops their ruckman.
Jacobs.
O'Brien.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Jacobs goes back. Yeah. Sorry. Riley O'Brien.
It's like when we're playing around with Reece Stanley. It's like,
well, we didn't have a choice. How are you going to have injured? We couldn't bring Mitchell Edwards in.
He might have made more. He might have fought a bit harder.
Probably.
I try to avoid the usual bashing of Reece because there's lots of really amazing assets that he has that most ruckmen don't.
Yep.
But if the effort's not there, it's done. And tonight, I know like everyone will say, you know, players go out there and that it's not like they're not trying, but there's a visible difference between a player giving their 10 out of 10 and a player giving their 8 or 9 or whatever it is. And I don't even know if Reece hit 8 tonight. So
he won a grand final sprint, didn't he?
Yeah.
Run!
So exactly, just run. That's all you need to do, right?
Give us something.
In the first quarter, I said to my family, if we win, I'm calling it a grand final replay. But then after that, it was gone. I went outside, kicked the footy because I knew we were going to lose in our last term. I'm like, nope, I'm not watching anymore.
No, you didn't. You kept watching.
No.
You couldn't take your eyes off it. It was like watching a car crash. It's awful.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's been a.
I know. Well, speaking for myself, I was kind of peering between the eyes, and you just couldn't take your eyes off it. Also, in the hopes that maybe things would turn around too, but they never did.
Jordan Sweet, yeah. Yeah, Ivan Soldo. There you go. There's a comment there. Ivan Soldo and Jordan Sweet. Just
there's a few options that other clubs have, and we've struggled with Reece Stanley, who's he helped play a part in this getting a premiership in 2022, but it feels like the time has come and gone, and obviously we're just waiting on Toby, and he's getting closer. Hopefully, he can kind of build up that aerobic capacity a bit more because I think that's his one big weakness. But once he gets that sorted, there's no reason why he can't play every game.
And I still remember when we got the Holy Trinity, we had Ablett, Dangerfield, and Selwood.
Oh.
And they could the first centre bounce, and Reece Stanley was the ruckman. It was just like, we couldn't.
Well, the hope was probably that no matter what he serves up, that the other three are going to get it. But
like,
somehow that didn't work.
Yeah, no.
Can you imagine though if they had a decent ruckman serving it up to him? Oh my god!
And then we couldn't even get Goldstein. We tried to get Goldstein for a while.
No, it's at Essendon.
And then he just decides.
No, but we had a crack at Goldstein, and we've had a crack at Darcy, and we can bring a bunch of Rolls Royces in, but we couldn't seem to get a ruckman.
No.
Have we talked about Collar Jasny yet?
Oh, say
you brought him up briefly, but
I think Collar Jasny really well.
Yeah,
he took really good marks. He made good opportunities, and so was Mark O'Connor. Mark O'Connor did really well.
Yeah, I think the both of them did really well. I'd agree with that. Collar obviously will go on.
O'Sheen did really well as well.
Yeah. No, there was some great contributors from the back line in particular. While some others kind of had a quieter game. I'm not going to bash him because he's had an amazing season so far. But that was a poor performance from Zach Guthrie tonight. There was Tom Stewart hasn't quite worked out yet how to handle the extra attention he's getting. There's a few of those sort of things. But you're absolutely right about Collar in particular. He was one that even through last year when I jump in any videos and those sort of things talking about him. He was one that I'd kind of be pretty critical of, and I think I even did put in my end of season report, the 2023 report for him, where I said, well, the only way he stays in is if he finds something extra, because there's going to be people nipping at his heels. And to his great credit, maybe he recognised that himself and has been tearing the house down this year. It's been amazing what he's put together, and if that's the Collar that we're going to get for the next couple of years, no one's going to get his spot.
Yeah. No, good call. No.
And you nailed it with O'Connor and O'Sheen as well. O'Sheen he started out really strongly and then kind of faded, but again, he's super early in his career, right? So we have to expect that a little bit.
Yeah.
Game sense. And again, I think what we've said about even the midfield group, and just when the tide turns and it's going to at different points, how do you arrest that momentum? How do you, in the case of defender, how do you continue to impact the contest? How are you consistently relevant throughout the game? And that takes time. You learn that, especially when it's not even your natural game as well.
And did you see where Isaac Heaney was literally 2 inches away from the ball, and then Tom Atkins just swooped it, and then we got an easy inside 50?
I remember that one actually. Yeah, and there was some great plays.
That was
There was some
early when they were coming at the ball and Atkins just went whoosh and took it. Yeah. How do you remember that? Yeah, no, that was wow. What could
There
have
was
been?
there was some brilliant plays, and then there was probably 10 to 15 minute long bursts that ultimately did us in.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's the lesson for, and even though he's got a bit more experience than some of the players we've named, there's lessons for the likes of Jack Bowes, there's lessons for the likes of Tanner Bruin in terms of how they remain impactful in the game, especially when you're in the midfield. You can't really afford to have 10, 15 minutes where you just can't get near it when you're playing against a team like Sydney.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, you're in all sorts.
Yeah.
Do we talk about the VFLW now?
Do you want to talk about the VFLW? Tell them.
Yes, please. No, I want to hear all about it. Obviously, we know the result. It wasn't a great result, but what'd you see?
Tell them.
Brianna Pratt just threw her body at the ball. We had some opportunities, we just wasted it, and there was this one where Bridie Collins could have gone back and took the shot, but she chose to pass it, and I think Piper really showed some encouragement, and it was just really fun helping them out and cheering it on.
Yeah, it's been a tough 3 weeks for the VFLW.
The AFLW, bring it on.
I think we've kicked 1 goal in 3 weeks. They're struggling a bit. Really, really, really young side. I think there was like 400 games of experience difference between the two sides today.
Which says a lot also considering how young the competition is.
Yeah, 400
Abby
games.
Favell came back, but I think why we lost, Chantal Mason hasn't been in.
Yeah. But
Abby McDonald, Brooke Plummer, Gabby Featherston, all of the AFLW players that are playing AFLW couldn't play.
yes.
That's why we lost.
But why couldn't they play?
Because the AFLW preseason has started.
That's right. So
yeah, it's a really tricky spot now for the VFLW competition, just because of where it's placed alongside there's a lot of work still to be done with the women's competition in terms of scheduling and those sort of things at the moment, because it's not great. It's not great viewing at the moment when you're watching the Geelong team week after week going goalless, as you've just said, or scoring little more than that in some other games. It's a bit crushing. I wouldn't want to be a player out there that's on the receiving end of that. And like I was, my junior days, I was very fortunate to be on a team that was dishing out those sort of hidings on a weekly basis. But I couldn't stand the idea of being on the receiving end of that sort of beating every single week. And that's what the girls have been copying at the moment. It must be really discouraging. So for those who are part of that AFLW team, I'm sure they're very excited to be kind of out of the little VFLW bubble and get in with a group that, obviously did so well last year and has every chance of going all the way this year.
Yeah. That's what we're waiting for, aren't we?
Yes.
We're excited about that.
I'm excited to go to Sydney for my birthday.
She's very happy that the fixtures come out now, so we've circled all the games we're going to.
Yeah.
The interstate games. So
We're going to Sydney for my birthday.
yeah.
Very nice. That'd be right.
Games. That'd be exciting. So
We'll be making sure to get you on like every week to get a comprehensive report on what the girls have been up to, because I don't think there's anyone who's involved with that comes on any Hoops Crew content that knows the Geelong AFLW team better than you.
that's right.
Better lump that into the both of you.
No, that's all.
But it's been amazing. And so what, as you point to some posters in the background, is there any creative works that the two of you are working on at the moment?
The Chantal Mason side. We need that one.
There will be some.
You have a month to make it.
I got 2 months. No,
That's plenty of time.
There'll be quite a few coming, 100% weekly. So there'll be a George
good to hear.
one. As soon as he makes his debut, there'll be a George Stevens one.
What about Mish Hardy?
So, nah, I don't think he'll play.
Chris Scott.
If he gets picked, we'll see.
Chris Scott is making some really bad decisions with how much right now.
Don't be tardy. Bring in Mitch Hardy.
Yes.
Yeah, he deserves it. So we'll have to see. Any other thoughts from the both of you around the game today? What we need to do going forward? Obviously, as you would have heard me chatting with some of the others today, in terms of some broader list management stuff going forward, areas that we might need to recruit and top up a little bit in.
Just obviously just the midfield. Bailey Smith would be nice. He wouldn't be the answer, I don't think, at all.
No.
But he would help 100%. Like,
then who would help us?
We just-
Who would actually help our midfield to?
we'll just take Chad Warner. We'll just take Chad Warner, and then all right, we're good then. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, he's not going to be the one that turns the ship around, but he's certainly like the cream on top. And so if we can kind of deliver more on the inside, he'll be hugely beneficial on the outside. And I don't mean in that wing position that he doesn't love, like he wants to be in the guts, but he can be that explosive Chad Warner on the outside. He can put his head over the ball and get in there too, but his greatest strength is his ability to break away from a contest.
But
And it will also help the younger guys, Bruin and Clark, to have a player like that. Like it's
a leader.
It's a group effort. Midfield is a group effort. It won't work if you just got the one. So I think that'll help.
And
Dangerfield scares me. I'm scared that they're going to push him too hard when he comes back, and he's going to break in. Like, so
that one doesn't worry me, only because, and it was one of the things that like late last year I was talking about a lot when we were in this don't we sort of phase about making the finals. I thought, okay, this is going to be the moment where they kind of uncage Danger and potentially, as you say, kind of blow him up a little bit. But they continually, week after week, just gave him 70 to 75% game time. It just never changed. No matter how dire the situation was, they stuck to their guns. And so my hope is that when he comes back, that's exactly the same here. Obviously, he's important. Obviously, there's a temptation to go, okay, unleash the beast and let him go. Yeah. But if we make finals, that's the time to do that.
Yeah.
But up until that point, I mean, the youth and the next generation, they're the players that are going to get us there, you think. Obviously, the bit of brilliance from a Jeremy Cameron and a Tom Hawkins and those sorts of blokes as well. But ultimately, we need to look at that next crop that have been starting to come through. They're the ones that will get us there. And then if they do, that's where you go, okay, let's take these guys off the leash. And for a few of them who it might well be their last crack at it, just go hammer and tong and see what you can do. We know they've got the talent. And if we can massage their game time up to that point, who knows?
I just want to say something that I noticed out in the game. Now, Ollie Dempsey didn't have a really good start to the game. Fourth quarter, marks, kicking to a target. Just we need him to do that at the start of the game.
Don't you wish everyone was there from moment one?
Yeah.
I'll see if I can bring up the quarter by quarter numbers. Because does it work on this version?
Yeah. I think Ollie Dempsey's he's a real confidence player. If you could get him going early, he's off to the races. He's off the races. But until he gets there, it can get just a bit painful. But he was on the last quarter, which was Bianca. I think you were right there. We'll see if you can get the stats up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to Geelong quarter one. Let's just go disposals to keep that pretty simple. Where is he? Who are we looking for again?
Ollie Dempsey.
Ollie Dempsey.
Were you right?
He had 6 disposals in the first quarter.
Oh, you're right.
You said it. You told it.
No.
2 in the second, which is, I guess, that I think that's probably the more important one. So again, it's for players like him, and again, this we can. Joy Clark had 10 in the third quarter, but it's for players like that next crop coming through. So okay, how do you impact when things aren't going well?
Yeah.
And that second quarter, obviously they were explosive in the final 10 to 15, but we weren't breaking away like we were from them in the first quarter, even in the first half of the second. So how do you impact the game? How do you become a point of difference? And considering the sort of position that he plays, you want him to be that point of difference sort of player. So how do you inject yourself into it? I think that's one of the great tricks. 2 in the third and Ollie Dempsey in the final quarter. 4 in the last. His first quarter was actually his best.
Just the best.
In terms of just pure disposals, so we won't talk efficiency and those sort of things, but yeah. And we can pop Grind into this sort of conversation where he's came out. We love Grind. Came out of the blocks really, really well. Super dangerous. Set up a lot really early in the piece. Went missing.
And Dingle
Sydney
too.
really clamped down on him hard.
Dingle too. He did well on the first. Kicked the snag.
And then he kind of went again. Yeah, he got pretty well held at that point as well. And look, all credit to Sydney. They've got an amazing lineup, and they well and truly deserved the win. But yeah, it would have been nice to see some of these players just maintain over the course of the full match.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
2 weeks time.
2 weeks time.
2 weeks time. Yeah, we've got ourselves a little break. Danger comes back. Mitch Hardy comes in, of course. It's there's upside, and some of these guys need a rest. I put the video out about Jeremy Cameron during the week and just what he needs to find himself back in form. And in that last quarter, admittedly, it was a bit of urgency from the Cats that I think helped stir the beast a little bit. And I think the Shannon Neal coming off thing allowed him to go back and play his primary role. But you could see they were feeding him a little bit, and he got his hands on. He started to get his touch. He kicks the goals. You're like, okay, Jeremy Cameron's starting to come back online again. There was signs there late in the piece that I hope bodes well for post buy as well, especially going into a game against Carlton. You want him up and about.
Yeah, 100%. Let him go fishing this week, and then come out and kick 10 next week.
Yeah, some fishing, few YouTube videos, and he'll be laughing. Bonfire,
and then
sticking GoPros to footballs and then then failing to kick them properly. Yeah, he's a quirky unit, but it seems to work for him, so we embrace it.
Yeah.
So, do we make finals at this point? We've now 1-5 from our last 6 games. Do we do it?
Oh.
Again, the way, and I was chatting about it with Ethan there before, the way some of the other teams have been performing around us gives us a chance. Like the worst case scenario at the end of this round is we're going to be 6th, despite the fact that we've won 1 game in a month and a half.
Well, we've played against really difficult sides, but we're playing North Melbourne and West Coast in our last few rounds. I think we could win those, but I think we'll hold on and make finals.
I think you're right.
Okay, I'll go with you as well.
You don't want to be the naysayer now, right?
I'm not sure. I mean, look at the which teams are out at the moment? Collingwood's not in the 8.
Collingwood's out. Brisbane's out. Melbourne's out. Yeah, there's certainly some class. The Gold Coast is out, and obviously, they'll play enough home games that they can. Yeah, there are some high quality teams that are on the outs at the moment. Actually, no, sorry. As things stand, Gold Coast are sitting 8th, but yeah, there's some high quality teams that are breathing down the next. Obviously, one of Collingwood or Melbourne will slide in off the back of tomorrow's result, potentially both if it ends up being a draw.
Yeah.
But we've had about enough of those for the season, I think.
Yeah, we wanted Essendon to win because then we could possibly stay 4th because Essendon and our second.
Yeah, we would have held on to 4th, but I'm not sure if you've checked the results, but Essendon ain't winning. They're down by 27 points with only a few minutes to go. So,
okay, there you go.
They fought back kind of late in the third. What they get down? What they down by there at 3/4 time? Looks like it was relatively close. Why won't it just give me the scores properly? Stupid thing. Anyway, looks like they were down by. Somewhere in the teens. Oh, hang on, 3/4 time. They were down by 15 points. They clawed it back a little bit, but then Carlton have gone on to kick 5 in the last term. So I'm okay with it. Ben overrates the Bombers. So
yeah. Oh.
And another year of Essendon letdowns provides another year for us all to remind them it's been since 2004 since they won their last final. So more of those jokes are good.
So that would mean if it was 2004, that means we started them on their run.
We started it. Yeah, we started in that semi-final. I don't know about you, but I was there that day.
That was I.
And Herd exploded in the last quarter and nearly pinched it from us, but we end up getting the points, and then we had the prelim against Brisbane the next week.
We had David Haynes, didn't we?
Yeah,
playing in the forward line.
Yeah,
he's 3 or 4
Haynes alongside Charlie Gardner and Henry Playfair and all these guys that were kind of emerging at the time.
I think Kent Kingsley missed through suspension. I think he came back.
Yeah, maybe that sounds about right.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Bianca can't even fathom the idea of 2004.
Wasn't even close to being around.
What a time. It's really 2004 as far as I'm concerned. And obviously we think about 2007 and the dam wall breaking, but 2004 for me is the year that something changed. We might have needed 2006 to really consolidate what the club was building, but we had the cattle right. We had the players coming in that were correct, and then they just needed the time. We needed the couple final tweaks to the cultural stuff, and we were good to go. 2004 for me is when it all began.
Yep.
Obviously, easy to say that when we went on to play in a prelim that year, and you could argue we're unlucky not to sneak through in the end, but I think we would have been belted by Port grand final day.
Yeah, we would have. But that Brisbane game is one of the best games I've ever been to.
That was an amazing game to go to.
To this day, it's still one of my favourite games, even though we lost.
What about the Hawthorn game you told me about?
What Bradshaw did.
What was that?
Bradshaw did that too. Yeah, he was electric that day.
But I still remember Joel Corey running down Ackermanis on the wing. That was the first time I actually believed that we could win a premiership. I started it was like, wow, we could actually do this. We could actually go
dare to dream.
I'm getting the hairs going up on my arm.
Thinking about those epic losses.
I was young and taking a bus with the cheer squad, from wherever. Good memories there.
Good times. And then 2007 wasn't far away.
No.
3 years ago. 3 years
later.
We won.
Yeah.
Not long. It's been a whirlwind. Well, thank you both so much for coming on tonight and joining in. And as always, Bianca, great to hear about how the girls are going and what you're seeing in that space. Please keep delivering us that knowledge each week. It's always awesome. Brendan, thank you for bringing her along as always as well and being amazing yourself.
It's her favourite part of the weekend, jumping on here and talking to you guys. So thanks for having me.
Giving us way too much credit, but thank you.
Thanks. Go Cats.
Go Cats.
See you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
And now, I'm not sure if he's available. I've seen him coming on and off camera at different points. There we go. Lucas is here. Let's bring him in. How's things, mate? Oh, I can't hear you at the moment.
There we go. Am I good now?
There we go. Yeah. Got you now.
To answer your question, after today's game, very good at the start, and then that just turned to misery and pain at the end.
It's a bit deflating when you get off to a hot start like that, only for things to kind of turn around and end. Well, actually, I guess it was in a lot of ways, it was almost the opposite of what we did to Richmond the week before, where we let them get a fair old lead and then we went and mowed it down. It was actually eerily similar, just on the wrong side of the ledger this time.
Yeah, well, it was when we kicked all those goals in the first side. I knew Sydney would come, but they've just got too many star players. They're not to respond to that. I thought maybe they'll have a rare bad day, but it kind of turned when Heaney kicked those 2 late goals.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, when he kicked those two late goals, I thought, no, okay, here we go. They're just gonna go nuclear on us. They're gonna just kick 6-7 goals in the second half, and surprise, that's what they did. And we saw this in the Port game. We saw this in the Gold Coast game. We saw this kind of sort of in the Richmond game, though we stopped that. It's now becoming either an event or a trend that teams get these 5-6 goals run against us and we don't stop it. I like to say it's a trend, but it's now an event. It just keeps on happening for some reason. I thought today Bowes had an awful game, but why was he not in the middle in the centre clearances? I want to ask that, because we did that last week against Richmond. We were in all sorts of trouble. We put Bowes in there, and turned out to be a great move. Was brilliant in that second half against Richmond, especially with his clearance work. Where was he today? In the middle, just not good enough by the coaching staff. I'm never going to be a Chris Scott out guy. That will never be me. But I'm saying, why is he letting opposition teams do this to us? Surely there's someone in the box saying, you know what, it's happened now 3 times. Can we stop it? Can we put someone in the middle? Can we put a Tom Stewart in the middle? Can we put a Jeremy Cameron in the middle? I don't know what's been going on with Jeremy Cameron the last 5 weeks. Maybe it's that concussion. Maybe I'm clutching at straws there. But he's been poor, dreadful, absolute dreadful the last 5 weeks. Hawkins has been a little bit better. So I'll give Hawkins.
There's a few of those things I'd agree with. Yeah, some of the decisions we've made around who's lining up in the midfield have been questionable at points. You're right about Jack Bowes. He's been amazing through the midfield, and he's been kind of highly underused. I think he's done a good, and so I was pretty happy with how he performed today, but I felt like that was almost in spite of some of the decision making around him. Like, he made the best of a shitty situation, I guess. He could have been treated and looked after a little bit better in terms of the way he was being utilized. And obviously he kicked 2 goals, one, and was, showed that, like, when he went in the midfield, he made it count. It's just he didn't spend nearly enough time in there. And it seems like the club wants to treat him like a defender, and he obviously can defend. He's done that over the years, but I think what he continues to prove every time he goes into the midfield is that is the right spot for him. And so, I don't know, hopefully at some point soon he just becomes a permanent midfielder for us.
Well, he's probably going to get less midfield minutes when Dangerfield comes back, because they're going to put him straight in the slot. But I agree. His best position is midfield, in the centre stoppages, the clearance work. That's his best position for me. Because when he's in there, he's defensively minded, but then he can go forward and kick a goal. Yeah, exactly. So I just don't understand why that move wasn't made. It's happened twice, like I just said. Surely when we know how Sydney's midfield is with Heaney, Warner, Gould, you can make an argument that any of those could win a Brownlow this year. Probably they'll take votes off each other. We'll probably stop that. But any of those 3
will somehow win it again.
Yeah. So easily any of those 3 can easily win a Brownlow, but it just amazes me that it was like just Groundhog Day. We knew what was coming, because it happened with Port, it happened with Gold Coast, it happened to extent with Richmond. But we just don't do anything when teams kick 3, 4, 5, 6 goals against us. The scoreboard, I thought, flattened this a bit. I thought you can say it's an honourable loss. I don't see it that way. I don't see any Geelong loss as honourable. That's just me. But
I've been really skeptical of the honourable loss sort of thinking when it's been a scenario where we've been belted out the gate and then they try and surge back late. I go, okay, sure, it makes the scoreline look a little bit cleaner, and you say, it was honourable that they surged late, but you should never have got yourself in that situation in the first place. I am more inclined to bundle into that, and I don't usually like using the honourable loss sort of thing, because a loss is a loss. But I kind of classify this one as being one of those. We obviously came out the blocks early, and I've kind of mentioned a few times now to a few people as they've come in. There was these 2 blocks of about 15 minutes, I would say, obviously late in the second term and kind of mid to late in the fourth term, where things got away from us. The momentum shifted, and they couldn't flick the switch to bring it back again. But I guess I can't question the effort from the players. Now, again, decision making in terms of who was on the field and where their position maybe is up for discussion. Amy's actually just popped into the chat here and stressed that Bowes actually attended 18 centre bounces of the 21 for the day. So
I find that really surprising.
Centre clearances, sorry, specifically. So So we've got a stat there that we can kind of lean on a little bit. Obviously, overall there was 32 to 39 clearances across the board. There's way more than just the 18 centre bounces in any given that he happened to attend in any given game. But which I guess Amy's managed to pull the stat here. Thank you very much, Amy, for that. The eye test felt like he was not there nearly as often, but apparently he was.
I can't believe that stuff. I believe what Amy's saying, but I can't. Yeah, the eye test looked like he wasn't hardly at all in there.
Yeah.
But go on.
No. Sorry. Yeah, and I guess the other half is for me in terms of those that you've kind of mentioned so far is the Jeremy Cameron one. Apparently, Bruin was also at 18.
Yep.
Yeah, Jeremy Cameron and kind of how we've been using him, and it felt like almost the best thing for him in the end. Not that you want to wish injury on people, but almost the best thing for him in his form was Shannon Neal going down. Like he went back into the forward line. He played the Jeremy Cameron sort of game in that final quarter when we needed him to as well. Something to be said for it, I think. Like he can obviously get up the ground, he can be lethal up the ground, but he needs his space to be able to do his thing, and he's not had the space because it's been a bit too crowded.
Oh well, he's one of the best field kicks in the game.
Yeah,
and
there's lots of reason to utilize that too, but we need him in front of the sticks too.
Oh, absolutely. Like we maybe Hawkins last year, so he's got to learn to be the guy. I don't wish injury on anyone, but as you said, probably a blessing in disguise. Neil did go down because he did get better in that fourth quarter, but the game was pretty much over then. I would have liked to seen Cameron kick goals in the second quarter, third quarter when they had this run against us, but that was probably not his fault. I can't question him on that because you have to get the midfielders have to get the ball to him, and if the ball's not going there to him, then it's almost impossible. In fact, it's impossible. So that's where I want him in the midfield. Get some touches, get a clearance because he's a big kick as well. He can easily, get a quick clearance, put the foot on the ball, and bang it inside 50.
He came in Sydney. And he gets his leg onto one of it. It's going to land in the goal square.
probably get the distance, just an average kick. But especially with the 6-6-6 rule, I think we have great medium-sized small forwards, and I think Cameron needs to probably be more, better used. That's up to the coaching staff. Obviously, the last 5 games I've seen it differently, but it's not working. So there needs to be, a medium where, okay, do we need to put Cameron up there for 5 minutes? Do we need to put Stewart up there for 5 minutes? I like Stewart up there more because he's a bigger body. And as today, it didn't really matter if Stewart was in the centre clearance. It wouldn't have mattered because you say, well, you lose one of your defenders. But if Sydney are walking it out, there's no pressure on the forward from Stewart. He's just getting an easy shot on goal. Lace out, inside 50, it doesn't matter who you are. So it wouldn't hurt if you're getting 4 or 5 kick goals on you and they're walking it out the clearances, like Sydney were today with Warner and Heaney. Put Stewart in there, put a bigger body on there. Tom Stewart, we forget he's a very incredible high IQ player.
Yeah.
He's very intelligent. So I'm sure that was worth a punt, but that's another conversation, maybe.
No, and also just like there's the big picture perspective that you're bringing to it there, which is about what's good for the team, but also there's the what's good for Tom Stewart. Now he's being really well held at the moment. The teams have kind of worked him out at the moment. And that defender, the very defensive forward that's playing on him, they're not going to be nearly as effective in the middle. And I'm not saying that Tom Stewart walks in and suddenly is the best midfielder in the competition just because he's an amazing defender, but you can't play the type of game that you're playing on Tom Stewart when Tom Stewart's running around in the midfield.
No.
And you talk about, you take away a defender. Well, right now, teams are taking away our best defender anyway. So let's break the circuit on this and kind of get him going again. And maybe just getting some time, ball in hand, and one of his great strengths as a defender is obviously intercepting, but the other half of it is the way he then delivers the ball inside 50. And the shackles are off a little bit when you're doing that from the midfield because you've got the 6-6-6 straight out the gate. You can feed him a little bit. a tap out in front, on he runs, delivers the ball inside 50. Maybe it results in a goal, maybe it doesn't. But like there's an adrenaline hit that comes from that, and you start to pick up again. And then you go into that next break. You've maybe had 7 or 8 disposals in the midfield, and you go, all right, I'm going back up there, and your tail's up, and suddenly you're not getting outbodied in ways that he has been. And there's a psychological component to it that right now he's struggling in. He needs a win, and he's not getting it. So let's circuit break it. And
that's exactly right. Where you said, just because you put him in the middle doesn't mean he's going to take 10 clearances in 10 minutes. Yeah. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is that try it. Okay, if Sydney still kick 4 or 5 in a row, at least we've tried something. At least we've said, you know what, we've tried it. They're too good. Okay, probably Sydney were too good today. But if you don't try anything, how do you know?
Yeah.
And that's where I was a little bit frustrated, where they're walking it out. Stanley, good.
Come on, everyone has been really well measured in their conversation about Stanley so far, so you're more than welcome to go off. I think at this point you're our last person for the night. So end it on a high note and rip strips off him if that's what you need.
Well, I want to be respectful because I know Bianca's still there and you don't want to curse in front of kids. But
I've slipped up too many times in front of Bianca. She seems just waving off at this point. It's a real worry on my part.
But he looked as bloody slow as Michael Jackson on a car, dancing on a car. Goodness gracious me! And I love Stanley. He's one of our cult heroes, but he couldn't do a damn thing today. Not a damn thing.
Yeah.
And Grundy just after quarter time, Grundy
had his way with him.
Just completely ragdolled him, monstered him, pushed him up through the ground. And Stanley couldn't. He hasn't got the endurance anymore. Hasn't got the pace. If you haven't even got the pace, that's fine. But when you don't have the endurance anymore to compete with Premier Ruckman, that's a red flag sign that maybe he's not up to it, and he was clearly not up to it. But then again, this is where I like Chris Scott to say, okay, what can I do with Reece Stanley? All right, can I sub him? Now that kind of worked against Port Adelaide. They subbed him off. Put on extra midfielder. I forgot who the midfielder was at that time. Gave I
think didn't Jack Bowes come on that day?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it might have been Bowes. Yeah, gave them extra running power. Do we sub him again? Can we push him up forward? Stanley's not really a goal kicker. Doesn't really take tested marks.
Yeah.
What can we do there? I would have liked to seen him personally go forward. Try as much as this is where the Cameron situation comes into it. Put Cameron in the ruck. Now, there's always going to be a negative saying, well, if he gets his injured, if he ruins his knee, or even a Hawkins, or if he injures his knee, that's the end of that. But there's always risks when you put someone in positions. That's football for you. So I would have liked to seen a Hawkins in the ruck. Keep Stanley up forward, put Hawkins on there, put Stewart in there. See what happens for 5 minutes. Yeah, and this is where I come into it and say, if it doesn't work, too good. Sydney are just too good. They got potentially 3 Brownlow medalists in their midfield. We tried, too good. But if you don't try anything, like I said, how do you know it's going to work? We're not asking, and if you do put them in the midfield, or if you put Hawkins in the ruck, we're not asking them to get 20 hit outs or 10 clearances in 10 minutes. We just want to stop the bleeding. We want to stop the run of goals against us. Now, if we can, let's say we put in Hawkins in the ruck and Stewart in the midfield, and just, Sydney, just clogs them up for 5-10 minutes, at least we can get, some kind of our game back in, and for after quarter time, I saw a stat where it was like something like a 70-point turnaround.
We were up by 35 at one point, lost by 30. So it was a 65-point turnaround in the end.
That, and as I said earlier, the scoreboard flattens us. We got smashed today, absolutely smashed. You take out that first quarter, we got absolutely smashed. Midfield was smashed. Defense, as you said, Tom Stewart, it's nowhere near his form. At this point in time. I don't ever want to dare criticise Tom Stewart, but he's having a horrible 5 weeks since that Port game. Horrible. And that's where you need to put him into form. Make him feel good, make him feel better.
Yeah.
Because if there's no pressure on the midfield, now you mentioned this last during the Gold Coast game. If there's no pressure from the midfielders, when Sydney get the ball, Gold Coast get the ball, whoever gets the ball, if they lace out to a forward, if you lace it out to a forward inside 50, what the hell is that? How does Tom Stewart get confidence from that? Can't. No one, not just Tom Stewart, but no one can get confidence for that. Yeah. You just say, oh, bloody hell, I wish our midfielders could bloody at least put some pressure on.
Delivery as well, yeah.
So it comes down to that. I'm not asking, back in the middle, I'm not asking them to take 20 clearances in 5 minutes to stop the bleeding. See if it works. Stop that run, because it's Port game was ended in 1 quarter. Yes, we came back, we almost won, but that was 1 quarter.
Honourable.
Gold Coast, yeah. Gold Coast 1 quarter. Richmond that first quarter, though we did stop that by putting Bowers in there. And then today, after that one quarter where they kicked 5 on us, that was it. So in space of 1 quarter, game's over. And that's just unacceptable. We're not a team that just lays down like that. We've never been a team that lays down like that. That's for North Melbourne, West Coast, to a degree, Hawthorn and Crows this year. That's not us. Why look at the Carlton game where they kept coming at us, but we kept answering their questions. Ollie Henry, kicked a couple of goals back then in that third, fourth quarter. Where's that? Where's that fight? Now, no way I'm saying there was no effort today. Of course there was bloody effort, because
I think it was one of the best four-quarter efforts we've seen in a while. They just got outclassed at points.
Yeah, and it's if you said to me before the start of the game that we're going to kick this amount of points against Sydney, you think, that's not bad. But that's because of 1 good quarter. Now, maybe Sydney, I think it was like 15 days before they played a game. Was it 15 days off?
16,
but yeah. Of course, they're always going to be a bit flat. Now, Ethan earlier said that Crows might beat them. I think they might beat Sydney. But we had the opportunity was there to beat the best team in the comp, and it was only for that space of 10 minutes in that quarter. It was just dead, and that's what the most frustrating thing is, because it's totally avoidable. Port game was avoidable. Gold Coast game. Now you can say Gold Coast is completely what
that was avoidable.
Yeah. GWS. Now GWS didn't get that run of goals like the other teams I mentioned, but these are avoidable losses. No, we could have easily won those games. And today, you say we got a 30-point head start against Sydney. I think 100 times out of 100 we're going to take that all day long. And like I said, it wasn't for 1 bloody quarter where we just capitulated because no one wanted to make changes in the midfield. No one wanted to do anything different. No, we sit here and say, you know what? As some people I've seen on social media say, it's an honourable loss where we could have won this game if it wasn't for 1 bloody quarter. That's the most frustrating thing about it.
Yeah, I think the thing that interests me, and I think it's something I'll go back and check out, is actually look at the midfield blend for each of those 5 goals, because obviously they happen in like a 10-minute block or roughly thereabouts. I think there's something to be said for maybe going back and having a look at, like, did they stick to their guns the whole time? And you can maybe understand for the first 2, maybe even the first 3 goals. But at some point you go, okay, they've got it. They're on a run here. Like, what's our circuit breaker move? What are we doing here to change things up? How are we going to stop this? And I obviously wasn't studying to that sort of degree at the time because, of course, it's happening before you. Yeah. But going back and watching it now, okay, who were we lining up? I'd be curious to kind of take a look and see who was lining up in those midfield mixes. And of course, momentum is a thing as well. And they had it, and Grundy was absolutely pulverizing Stanley at that particular point. And so maybe you could have put and we referenced with the last 2 that we were talking about the Dangerwood. What do we have? Ablett, whatever the name was.
Selwood, Dangerfield.
So I can't remember what stupid name we had for the 3 of them at the time, but considering the way Grundy was serving up on a platter for the Swans, I don't even know if those three would have been able to do much about it because they were just getting obliterated at the actual heart of the game. So
Look, I've always been a big believer of just because you win hit outs doesn't mean you're going to win the game.
For sure. No, for sure.
Yeah, look at Riley O'Brien, from LA Cross. I think he leads the game in hit outs.
And Goldstein is the leading hit out player of all time, and yet is until this year has basically been on a losing team every single year of his career, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. So it goes down to, as you said, the blend, the chemistry, of those mids. Are they not reading it off the hands? And again, just because it's hitting Grundy's hand doesn't mean they can't read it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, pet plays, they work through that during training, but that doesn't mean you can't intercept them. That doesn't mean you can't put in defensive work. Doesn't mean you can just let as I saw today, Heaney and Warner, grab it, walk out bloody grandma's pace and just handball it to each other and just kick it in the middle, lace out inside 50. That doesn't mean you can't put defensive pressure on. So I think that's where we are letting ourselves down in that. And again, that's down to coaching. And like I said, I'm not one. I'll never be Chris Scott out. That is never me. I don't care if we lose the rest of the games this season. I don't care. What he's done for this football club has been absolutely brilliant.
It's immeasurable for sure.
And you're probably unaware of this, but Port are heavily looking into him. There's been talk in Adelaide that Chris Scott, maybe Chris Scott, even the Crows were talking about him on the Thursday night after their pathetic loss to Richmond, or maybe we need to get into Chris Scott, throw the cash cow at him, blah, blah, blah. Please don't go anywhere, Chris Scott. Please do not go.
Look, I mean, we've heard this before. Brisbane was linked to him 12 months ago, 18 months ago, whatever it was. And there was smoke. There was no fire connected to that one at all in the end. And he's hoping that's the case again. But obviously, especially when it comes to Port, the fan base is pretty keen to throw out Kenny Hinkley. So
yeah.
But when you do that, considering that Ken has taken them to finals so much, and not quite the grand final, but very much to the pointy end of the season every year. But if you're not going to get the job done, you're going to go, okay, well, who can we find that has taken a team to the grand final and then won it as well? And you go, okay, well, that limits the pool of options quite a lot. You go, okay, now we're talking about Chris Scott, you're talking about Horse, you're talking about Clarko, you're talking about Dimmer. You don't actually have that many options to really, and I've also been able to do this consistently. There's not many of those coaches out there. In fact, it's probably just those four that have consistently done it.
Well, that's exactly right. When Dimmer's just signed with Gold Coast, he isn't going anywhere.
There you go. He's off the table. You go, Clarko's fresh with North Melbourne. He's not going anywhere, though you'd probably want to get out of there.
Port wouldn't be the worst thing for him.
You go, okay, so it becomes kind of a two-horse race, for want of a better phrase, where you go, it's probably the coach of Geelong or Sydney, where you're going, okay, it's one of these blokes. But there's not the greatest incentive for either of them to leave. So
and that's why I think with all these rumours and rubbish going around, it's very important that the board of Geelong and the fan base support Chris Scott. Because he's not just a one-time premiership; he's a two-time premiership, coach with us. Now, of course, he got criticised for making all these finals, not converting. A bit like Ken Hinkley, made all these finals, not converting, turned up on prelim days, getting blown out by Giants, blown out by Western Bulldogs. So I get all that, but he just needs our backing,
I think Chris Scott's still the right guy. Yeah.
So hope the fan base need to support him. Like I said, I'll never be a Chris Scott guy out. That's not me. Especially what he's done to this football club. I'd sign him up for the next 10 years. I don't really care. But it's just amazed me that, he's such a brilliant coach, but he can't or doesn't want to do something different, to stop these run of goals. That's why I'm a bit confused by. That's why, oh, mate, you're a two-time premiership coach. You know what it takes. Why aren't you making these moves? Why aren't you doing anything different? And that's the most frustrating part of this team.
Maybe part of it is and I was talking at the very, very beginning of the show today about kind of threading the needle in terms of that handover between generations of players, and we've actually conveniently enough got Jackie's stat here that she's tossed at the bottom there. That Atkins spent 64%. That must be midfield ground time, I would imagine. 64% Atkins, 61 Bruin, 58 Clark, and 2/3 of that is the very obvious core of the Geelong midfield for the next 10 years. Atkins is a little bit on the older side, and so not going to necessarily spend as much time there. But maybe because we are in this transitional period potentially, and total time on the group. Oh, sorry, yeah, only 3 players had. Okay, right, that changed things. Jackie, just clarify that was total time on ground, not midfield time. Thank you, Jackie. I should have read that better in the first place. But we are in this transitional period, I guess, regardless of the stat that I totally butchered. Again, sorry, Jackie.
I think I did as well.
we both jumped to very wrong conclusions there.
Yep.
But we are in this transitional period, and there's going to be a degree of, we need to let these guys work it out. If we wrap them in cotton wool and we go, okay, it's not working, let's bring in Danger to save the day. And I know Danger wasn't out there today, but hypothetical person X to kind of be the circuit breaker, then they're not going to learn how to do it themselves. And so maybe there's a degree of, and I think about, I don't know if it was necessarily always the right way to do it, but I think about Zach Dawson back in the day I think this was back when he was still with Hawthorn, and Clarko just left him out there to get absolutely ripped apart by Anthony Rocker. Rocker kicked like 7 to half time or something absurd like that. And everyone commentary team wise was screaming like, why are you doing this to this guy? This is like, you're killing him here. And he may never play again because of just that was a bit of hyperbole, but when you get beaten so badly, so often, you're just putting him out lamb for the slaughter, that sort of thing. And though ultimately Zach Dawson never got the ultimate success at St Kilda and then Freo as well, he became a pretty handy defender. He nearly pulled off an amazing spoil in the 2009 grand final. It had not just been for a Scarlet's toe.
Yeah,
it might have ended things very differently, and that's because of him and his intercept. Like he was a pretty solid player, and sometimes you just have to cop a few pastings really to learn the lesson. And so there might be a degree of that as well that's at play here, and recognizing where we're at still. And you go, okay, well, we're in a pretty solid position for ladder. We've got some of the soldiers coming back. We're in a position that we can kind of play with the game a little bit and take some risks here. We're also not the favored team in this particular scenario. We know that we're probably not the strongest team on paper compared on the field here. Maybe we try and give these guys an opportunity to learn a lesson and fight through it, or even show something and show us how they are going to fight through this. And then it just didn't work.
Well, just look at how other teams recruit draft picks. Look at Harley Reid, put him straight in the middle, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Look at when Collingwood did the Dacos, straight in the middle, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Halfback at the time. Jason Horne-Francis, you go straight in the middle, you'll be fine. Kind of, sort of different attitude with that one.
I mean, to be fair, you have picked out a 2 pick 1s and a pick 2 in there.
I got nowhere else to go with that one, so I thought I'd just.
You're not wrong. There is something to be said for being able to just toss someone in there as well. Now, the luxury for Collingwood, for example, with Nick Dacos, is look what he dropped into. But the other two, North and West Coast, obviously for Horne-Francis at the time. North and West Coast for Horne-Francis and Harley Reid, they've dropped into nothing.
Yeah.
But also the teams are getting belted by 100 points every week. Nothing really changed. So as I was saying, it's a little bit different in those sort of scenarios versus even a Tanner Bruin who another 10 to 12 picks further in the later in the draft in that year. Let alone some of the other blokes that are even on paper less, quote unquote, less talented.
Yeah.
Or naturally gifted, or whatever you want to call it. There's a whole lot of learning the structures, and you can be the most skillful player in the world, but when that momentum's against you, how do you actually battle through that? And that's something that every player has to learn at some point.
Well, that's exactly right. You won't know until it happens.
He's an exception.
He
never faced
went straight into a premiership team, didn't he? He went straight into a legacy team, didn't he? And then carried on from there. But you won't learn until you try.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. Okay, will they end up getting smashed? Exclude the Harley Reid, Dacos, Jason Orfant's comparison. Because with all due respect to Tanner, much as I actually love Tanner, he's not those players yet. Could be time, but yet. Yeah, if that's the correct word, yet. But you never know, and I think he was a lot in the middle today.
Yeah.
So they did give him a go. But if I want to go forward, to our next two, we got the bye coming up.
There's a clear and easy win for us.
Yeah. So I think Port fans might say they might struggle to beat the bye when they're on their knees. So, but we're not that yet. Actually, on that, a lot of people actually forget with all Ken Hinkley being a Geelong person. Ken Hinkley, that club was on their knees after Matthew Primus, and what he did to that club to bring it to what it is today is just unbelievable. And I think the criticism is unfair, especially. I know I live in Adelaide. Kyrie can probably back this up to a degree. The pressure on these two Adelaide clubs is insane.
Yeah.
The media, fans, it's you have to actually live in South Australia to understand the pressure. And if you're not a Port Adelaide or you're not an Adelaide fan, it's impossible to get anything out of any team going on. I have to watch these contents like the Hoop Show, go on social media, follow Geelong, yeah, exactly, just to find out what the hell is going on with my club because there's no exposure.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's extremely hard. And I adore Ken Hinkley despite him being a Port Adelaide coach, maybe because he was a Geelong man.
Yeah,
came through the coaching ranks. Yeah, so I have a lot of admire for him, and what he's done to that club has been absolutely sensational. When they were on their knees, almost broke, bankrupt, probably almost kicked out of the league. Certainly headed that way, and what he's done has been absolutely fantastic. But going forward, I think we've got Carlton, and is it Carlton coming up the week after the bye? Yeah, and then I think it's Essendon. Incidentally, a Geelong home game at the MCG against Carlton, I believe, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That and Essendon as well. Last year we played Essendon Geelong. I thought I'll go on a little bit of a rant here. I thought our idea was to building these stadiums to get fans in. Is that my message was, or what I thought their message was, build your stadium up, you'll get bigger and better games at Geelong Stadium or Cardinia Park. That hasn't happened because we've played Carlton at the MCG, that's a home game. We played Essendon at the MCG, which is a home game. Finally we've played Richmond for the first time in 6 years at Geelong, but they're bottom. We're not. So where's our bigger games? What do you class interstate as bigger games? That's not bigger games. So I don't understand the messaging there because we've done what the AFL suggested, build your stadium up, and they haven't gave us anything.
Yeah,
they gave us they gave us extra games against interstate teams, but we didn't want interstate teams. We wanted games against
anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. We got that anyway. We wanted games against the Richmonds. We wanted games against the Carltons, the Essendons, the Collingwoods.
And we've been getting, like in the previous years, we'd been getting a couple of those, but only when that team was right near the bottom and their fans weren't necessarily rocking up. Yeah. We wanted. We were talking about exactly Collingwood when Collingwood's up and about in Geelong. Now, there's a bit of me, and this is I guess me conspiracy theorizing here, but like it's a bit of me that thinks that maybe the club is saying we want those games, but also they don't really. They're pretty happy with them at the MCG and making a lot of money from it. Just putting it out there. Well, I don't blame them really. It's a huge revenue raising thing. You've got a ceiling.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You want to get as much money as you can, especially in today's environment. Yeah. With soft cap, all this, where money's hard to come by. But I'm a fan of the club. I want the club to win and get the best advantage as possible. is playing a Carlton home game at the G an advantage? Maybe not compared to Geelong. And Essendon, we played Essendon last year. They were no good last year. Obviously, they're coming up. Can't get a home game there. And Geelong against them. So that's very interesting, that. So that's I hope that gets corrected next year, because that was the point of the AFL, saying, we'll build your stadium up.
Yeah.
And then you'll get bigger games. Well, interstate games are not classed as bigger games because we get them anyway. So I just hope
there's these other bloody agreements with the MCG about certain quotas and those sort of things. And look, I won't object. I'm an MCC member, and I reap the benefits of that. But
of course,
it's when I take that hat off and focus on the club more specifically, it's frustrating. I get that.
Well, I just want the club to win and get the best advantages they possibly can, and I just don't think it's an advantage playing a home game against Carlton, playing a home game against Essendon at the MCG, when we can. In the past, we've played them in Geelong, or Carlton's case anyway.
Yeah.
But moving on, to the next game after the bye. Carlton, we know what their midfield's like. Sam Rolls, Cripps. I don't want to see those run of goals. Because if I'm telling you right now, Paul, if I see that, I'm going to explode. Well, if I see that and not a damn thing's done about it, I'm going to explode.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think it's more like, if it happens, we don't want it to happen, of course. But if it happens, but there's a response.
Yeah.
But there's actually some proactive efforts to nip it in the bud. Fine. Yeah. Like if those plans don't work, I get it. Yeah. Like these teams have high quality midfields, and ours is still a developing one. That's okay. But if it's just stick to the guns, that's a problem.
Yeah, look, I always want, I don't care where we are at as a club, what we're doing. I always want my team to win games. I know there's fans out there that said, we won a grand final last year, we can do whatever we want for the next 10 years. I don't like that. I think that's negative.
Keep chasing premierships all the time.
Yeah, if you have to get rid of older players and rebuild, that's fine. But this is my perception. I always want to win games. I don't want to have these honourable losses to Carlton. Yeah. We only beat Carlton 7-8 weeks ago, so we can beat them.
Yeah, we can do that again.
I think,
it was our last win before the run of losses.
There was two, and Melbourne, trend. So we beat them once before. I don't want to see anyone say, let's not get blown out if we lose, but as long as we don't get blown out, I don't want to see that. Now, obviously, I'll be up front here and I'll say I think Carlton would be too good for us, but that doesn't mean I want us to have an honourable loss. I want us to win. I don't want the same shit happening over and over again.
Sorry, go on.
I don't want the same shit happening over again where we lose the game in the space of 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. So, I think you and I are both on the same page around this whole honourable loss thing. I think it's because people have been using it in kind of the wrong context. I'm okay with an honourable loss if it's the one where you fought tooth and nail the entire game. Something didn't work out, or you just got outclassed, which I think is what happened today. Yes, there was those 15-minute bursts, but we also had a big burst early on. It's okay. And I couldn't question the endeavour from the players at the time. It's just the execution wasn't there, the skills weren't there. Yeah. You got outclassed by a better team. I can tolerate that, but it's the one where you've given away a quarter of rubbish. You really didn't put up a fight, and then you've gone, oh, geez, all right, the coach has given us a rev up, or this looks bad, we better try and fix it up, or the pride kicks in, whatever the rationale happens to be, and then you come surging back and you go, well, where was this all along? No, I'm more frustrated because of this than if you just I would have rather, to a degree, you just roll over and go, all right, wasn't our day, hammer us by 100 points, no worries, move on, and we'll come out and smack someone next week. I expect that Melbourne might do tomorrow, where they're so stung by what happened that they'll come out and belt Collingwood tomorrow. Probably won't, but because they're as flaky as they come. But we come out and there's this response. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a weird one.
I agree 100%. If we put in 100% effort, and we lose, sometimes you just have to say the opposition's too damn good. Too damn good.
And that was today, for sure. It may well be 2 weeks from now.
Today there was no lack. There was, effort was there.
Yeah.
Especially first quarter, but decisions, coaching decisions handicapped us a bit. I don't blame the players for that, but and then they came back late, gave it a good fight. I can never go away from today's performance saying we didn't give a crack, because we did. We gave a red hot crack. We best as we could. Sydney were always going to come. They were flat from their bye. It happens a lot. But today I'm proud, but I'm not proud of I'm proud of the players. I think the summary is I'm proud of the players. I'm not proud of the coaching staff, because the coaching staff, I think, let down the players today, where they didn't do anything in that space of 10 minutes to try to stop that run, or at least try something different to stop that run. And as much as I would like to see us kick 5-6 goals in one quarter against Carlton, and kick another 5-6 goals in the second quarter, third and fourth, and just blow them out the water by 100 points, that's not going to happen. I think it'll be a complete arm wrestle like the first game was, 7-8 weeks ago, when we, looked $1 million undefeated. That was a complete arm wrestle. That could have went arguably either way. And if Geelong would have lost that game, you would have said, well, damn it, too good, Carlton. So I want to see that again. I want to see that effort not next week, but the week after, next game against Carlton, against their star midfield, because they towed up Essendon today. I watched, when you were speaking, I had muted off and I was watching highlights. They picked up another gear in that fourth quarter. They're in a little bit of trouble. And fourth quarter, they just blew Essendon away. Essendon came back for a little bit, so the effort was there, just like today with Geelong came back. But, Carlton, a lot of people don't think Carlton's a contender. I think they are. I think they're the real deal.
They're in it up to their eyeballs.
Yeah, I think they're the real deal. But I want us to compete. I don't want to have these pathetic 10-minute runs where we just lay over, all right, game's over. That's unacceptable. That's not Geelong. That's not us. That might be other teams like Hawthorn, West Coast, North Melbourne, Crows, Richmond, but that's not us, right? And I wish this bloody coach would identify that and say, you know what, time to do something different. Doesn't work, too good. Fair enough. I think we can live with that. But if we just don't do anything, we be, as the word, vanilla, and just leave the same players in and the game goes away, then, pressure gets mounted on him, Chris Scott. Well, why aren't you doing things differently? So I want to see a fourth quarter effort, and if it won't go our way all game, probably won't even go our way in one half, because that's what Carlton are. They're a very good team. It's going to be an arm wrestle. We have to play out our best.
They've got an unreal midfield too, which is
absolutely
now. So,
well, arguably those two could win the Brownlow as well. Yeah. So Cripps and Walsh again, they'll take.
The fact you got Chera and all the other blokes can come wandering in around him. It's crazy.
I've been impressed. I forgot his name. Colaccini.
Cotter.
Their tagger. He's been used as their tagger the last couple of weeks. He was on merit tonight, and I thought he was very good on merit. He's bald, hasn't got any hair.
Like, I think of Alex Chincotta. Is that who?
Maybe Chincotta. Yeah, maybe Chincotta. Yeah, I think he's I think he's a really good player. So they definitely have the midfield to just blow us away, like Sydney did, like Port midfielder did, like Gold Coast midfield did, to a certain extent, like Richmond did.
And then on top of it, they deliver it forward, and you've got Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay there. So it's gonna be a fun time. Good luck to the boys.
Well, and again, we mentioned confidence with Tom Stewart. If that happens, lace out inside 50, what the hell is he thinking? He's thinking, guys, come on, can we get some midfield pressure onto him? Any chance?
Yeah.
So that's when when shit hits the fan, you gotta throw him in the middle. Got to do something to get his confidence back. I'll maybe get a clearance. I've got a couple of clearances. Okay, now I can go back. Stop the bleeding. I can go back. Right? I want to see something like that. If that happens, heaven forbid, perfect world, blow them out by 100 points. That's not going to happen. But I think we all would like that.
No, but I think it goes back to that theme that we've kind of had, which is just changing something up, moving a few chess pieces around and changing something up to kind of shift the complexion of the game a little bit. That's the thing I think we want to see if things aren't working. And, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
No, exactly. And just as you said, hit the nail on the head, just change it up. But anyway, Paul, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. It's been awesome to have you aboard, you and everyone else who's jumped on tonight.
Is Ben still around? Is he just still being a pest hanging around?
I haven't seen him in the comments for quite a few hours. So if he's there, I'm guilting you again, mate. You've done the wrong thing. But he may rewatch this afterwards, so just to see how badly I did with the whole thing. So
not bad. I think there's an argument that you might be the poll voter for the awards here hosting the show. I think you might be in a little bit of trouble.
I'll kick him out. It's my incredible charisma that'll carry this show.
He may not get back in again, Ben. If you are watching, I think Paul's done a very good job, and I think you're in trouble,
mate.
Yeah, mate, you've done it from your car. So I think
if my dog keeps barking, though, we're going to have some problems. Jesus Christ, I'm surprised I haven't been roped in to go put my kids back to sleep yet. That's how constant that barking is.
But like I said, you've even done it in your car, so you've definitely earned your stripes.
Runs on the board for sure.
Absolutely, but no, hopefully.
Thanks so much for coming aboard, mate. It's been awesome.
No, I really do appreciate it. Thanks to all the fans that have to listen to my crap. So hopefully, please don't make me vent, because we have kids and I want to be respectful. Bianca. And I don't want a father to come down and beat me up. So
Brendan's a gem. He's not gonna do that to you. Just to give you a stern talking to, I'm sure.
Yeah, I bet. But no, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No, not a problem, mate. Thanks so much for coming aboard. Well, that is where we're going to wrap things up for tonight. Thank you to everyone who's jumped into the call tonight and kind of aired their grievances and with the game, the way the Cats performed tonight. We went down by 30 points. It's not the end of the world. There's some positives there. There's some negatives there. There's some things that we need to work on. Thank you to everyone who's been in the comment section tonight. In particular, Jackie and Amy, who've been providing so many really handy stats and thoughts consistently over the entire show. You two in particular have been absolutely amazing. Thank you to Ben for nicking off out of that chat tonight, so for his own sake he didn't get in any trouble, but also for letting me off the leash. It's been a good time. Next week I'm sure I'll probably just come back to being Dickie Knee, popping into the shot like I did last week or the week before, or whenever that was. But we are kind of at the end of our time tonight. It's been closing in on 3 hours now, and I've got to get up in about 4 hours to cover video games events. So I'm looking forward to not having much sleep tonight. I'll try and extract some in the meantime. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Disappointing result for the Cats, but we'll be back in 2 weeks from now, ready and raring to go, and hopefully we can pump the Blues. Thanks a lot, everyone. Check out all the Hoops Crew content on YouTube. Check us out on socials. If you're not already a patron, consider checking out the Patreon as well, where you can get for a week, you can just get free access to everything and check out what we do there. But then consider popping in a few bucks and climbing aboard where you get early access. And there's a range of other exclusives that we're working on as well. I'm eyeing off some daily video content that I can deliver. I guess to Lucas's point, that I can deliver from my car to people as well on the daily. Got some plans for that will be exclusive to patrons as well. So stay tuned for all of that. But thank you, everyone, for coming on board tonight and sharing your thoughts. Thank you for all the support that I've seen in the comments as well. Much appreciated. And until next time, remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.